Hi guys.
Welcome.
That caught me up. It caught us up because we've tried to be fancy and have a TV to see your comments, and the TV is going to be a couple of minutes behind, I'm guessing. But welcome to Brew York. Welcome to our March YouTube live tasting. This is actually tasting number 11.
Yeah.
So it's almost a year in now, which is crazy.
Which kind of makes sense because we launched this. Well, was it just before the first lockdown, or was it?
No, it was,
in the first.
Yeah, it was during the first lockdown, and we did it. We didn't do it on YouTube initially, so it was a bit of a journey to get here. So yeah, thanks for joining us, guys. It's a little bit chilly. You might be able to see the steam on our breath. We're sat in the original brewery, which is really cool because 5 years ago, pretty much to the day, we brewed our first beer in here. So we launched it in April, but we brewed it in March 2016. So it's really cool to be back in here with the original kit, with all the extra big tanks gone to the new brewery. And yeah, we've got some space here. We're quite excited.
It's very strange. I know you guys can't see it from there, but all we've got here is the original vessels, which I remember back in the day, we're like, God, it's so big.
Yeah, so much space.
We've got loads, we know the vessels I mean. It's like, yeah, how are we ever going to fill these vessels? And now I look at them and think, God, they're really cute, aren't they?
Yeah, they're tiny little things now when you look at them. But yeah, so anyway, so on to tonight's tasting. So welcome all our beer subscribers. So everyone who gets our monthly beer subscription, thanks again. Thanks for keeping subscribing. And everyone else who's bought the tasting packs or who's just joining us and tasting the beers, welcome. And yeah, so before we go into too much detail, first up, we need you to get DRADIS out of the fridge. So if you haven't already, it's a dark beer. It's going to taste much better when it's up to room temperature. So take it out your fridge, and we'll try. That'll be our last beer of the evening.
And I love the fact that I write these prompts, and one of the things I've got on these prompts is that Wayne has to apologise to you for the shipping delay, which for the first time in 3 or 4 months we don't have to apologise for. I'm just so used to us having to do it. I'd left that comment in there.
Yeah, so hopefully most of you guys got your boxes, and around the 3rd or 4th of the month this time round, we've hopefully got the process much more slicker. And the last thing really is anyone who was on our original subscribers who did it through Go Cardless. If you guys haven't switched across yet to our new system, your packs may have arrived a little bit later because we have to wait for the money to clear. But anyone who's on the new system, it's much slicker. So please switch across if you get the chance. It makes life easier for you guys. You get your beer much quicker. You know what day the money's coming out of your bank account, and it makes our guys' life a lot easier in the shop picking the orders. So it'll be easier all around, and the end result is you get your beer hopefully the 3rd or 4th day of each month. So please switch across if you haven't done so yet.
Okay, so unsurprisingly, we're still in lockdown time, so no audience this time. It is something we will come back to at some point in the future. In fact, given we now have a few bars around the country and would like to have more, we're hoping to either be able to host one of these events from one of those bars or to have them screened live in those bars, and then you'll be able to drink along and send your questions in. So what we're going to be doing this time round, as always, is 4 beers. The first up is the one that Wayne's just pouring here, called Bandicoot. That's a Mosaic Pale Ale, coming in at 5%, I believe.
Yeah, 5%.
Followed by that, it's going to be the latest addition to our core range, which is Lupu Lion, which is another 5%, more of a classic American pale. It does have some a little bit of haze in there. 4-hop combo, but more on that one coming later on. We're then going to follow that up with, quite traditional for us, is a sour in the 3rd beer. Abraham Lingon, a bit of an unusual one this time. It's grapefruit, lingonberry, ginger and lime.
Different sour culture, and it's definitely not a go, so there won't be the saltiness that we had on the last month's tasting, but hopefully you guys will enjoy it. It's a bit of a palate cleanser before we go into the dark beer at the end. I
have to say I'm absolutely loving it. It's got this kind of like Moscow Mule type finish to it with the ginger heat.
Well, it is cocktail inspired, isn't it? Inspired.
That's the pre-screening beer starting to show though anyway. And then finally we're going to conclude with a beer called DRADIS, which is inspired by my love in particular of science fiction, and forgot the bloody name of it now, that's embarrassing.
Battlestar Galactica.
Battlestar Galactica.
I don't even watch it. I didn't know what the hell DRADIS was when he said.
I have absolutely no idea what I just suddenly started thinking of Babylon 5. I was like, it's not Babylon 5. It's Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah. So one of the things we're doing a little bit differently this time is we do have the screen in front of us, so we're seeing your comments coming in live. So we're going to try and interact a little bit. So we got one from John K. Can he get a shout out for covering his kitchen ceiling in tomato soup? I hope that's not a beer. We haven't got a tomato based beer, so I'm hoping it's not one of our beers on your kitchen ceiling. But yeah, congratulations on that somehow.
And maybe you could comment again, John, and explain exactly how you've managed to achieve that.
Yeah. So
Babylon Galactica, yeah, that's obviously what I was thinking of. Yeah, as someone has commented there. So as always, as we taste each beer, we'll talk to you about why we called it what we called it, how we came up with the recipe. If there's anything in particular interesting about that beer, like for example, Lupu Lion is also gluten-free, we'll cover that and how that might have come about. And along with each beer, we're going to pick up a specialist subject. As always, we'll be giving you a little insight into what's coming in the next box, what's going on with the business. Feels appropriate right now, for example, for Wayne to give you an update on bar reopenings and when that's going to happen and how we're going to change up a few things. And as always, we really need your questions. What's going to make this really interesting for both us and for you is the interactivity of the questions. And as Wayne's highlighted there, we will see some of them popping up down the side of the screen over there, but you're also able to type in the comments. We've got a team behind the camera over there who are going to record that, and you'll see that little hand coming into screen, handing over the questions every once in a while, as you've seen before. This one here, no, Ant, you're going to have to put it in a bit further.
No, he's on the camera, isn't he? So.
Yeah. It's because I'm looking at a delayed feed, wondering why the hand doesn't appear. In a few seconds, we're going to see it appear on that screen. So this is going to be
It is quite weird to see it on screen. So try not to look at that, and we'll check on the questions every now and then. So Mashed Bandicoot. So hopefully you guys will like the nice fancy glasses we've got. They just went live on our web store this week. So we actually ordered these in around November, and we've been desperate to get this glassware. So we've got the pint glass and the what do we call it? The Harmony schooner glass, which is really cool for imperials and smaller measures. So yeah, no, it's a pretty impressive glass. But yeah, it took us a long time to get here. So yeah, Mashed Bandicoot, 5% Mosaic Pale Ale. So it's something that we brewed originally 2-3 years ago on cask.
Yeah, only as a cask beer, as a beta beer. So we didn't do full-on branding. It had like a generic pump back in those days. It was just about us testing the recipe out, mostly with like the local market.
And this was for us. We couldn't get Mosaic hops at the time, so we wanted to do a single hop Mosaic beer when we first brewed it. Is it still a single hop now, or?
It's bittered with Simcoe, yeah. But then other than that, everything is entirely Mosaic.
So you get lots of different fruits on the nose, so citrus, berry, but you also get quite a bubblegummy note from Mosaic. So it sounds weird. It reminds me of getting the van across here earlier, where apparently my van stank of bubblegum, and it wasn't Mosaic, it was actual bubblegum, but it's the same sort of nose on the Mosaic hop beers. So this is very much a dominant flavour from the Mosaic hops. It's simple grain bills, pale ale, flaked oats, torrefied wheat, and all about the hops. Only 5%, so there's not much strength there to mask any imperfections, but it's a really nice, easy drinking 5% beer, soft, fruity.
And it's not hugely hopped. It's not like massively hopped. It's not supposed to kind of dominate your palate. It's supposed to be just nice and easy drinking and refreshing. Which I hope we've achieved.
So getting a few questions about whether these glassware might appear in future subscription boxes. We've already sent the first gift on your 3-month subscription is a schooner glass. And if these glassware, this is glassware that you guys would want to see in future boxes, then please send us the feedback. Send it to store@brewyork.co.uk, and we'll gather that feedback and decide what type of gifts you guys want in your future boxes. But yeah, there's no reason why this couldn't appear as one of them, or the pint version that we have. But yeah, back onto the beer, so the name and artwork. So we decided that this time around, if we're brewing it again, it's actually 25 years since the original video game that this was inspired by was released. So Crash Bandicoot, if anyone's old enough to remember.
We definitely are.
Platform game on the Sega Mega Drive. Was it Mega Drive or Master System? I think it was Mega Drive. No, PlayStation. Was it PlayStation? Yeah, it was a bit. Gosh, that shows how old I am. Master System and Mega Drives. But yeah, Sony PlayStation, Crash Bandicoot was a really cool platform game, and we would have loved to have given the can a lot more inspiration by that game, but we don't want to step on people's trademarks or toes, so we kept it to a Bandicoot character. The FEs and the brewing in the background, but the colour scheme ties back into the game.
And as we say on the can, it may or may not taste like Wumpa fruit, which is the thing you're hunting for in the game.
Yeah, exactly. Mash Bandicoot, hope you guys enjoy it.
So, just wanted to conclude the first beer, rather, by giving you an update on what's generally been going on. So, we have been selling some mini casks, they've gone really well, but unfortunately the cask beer that we were generating that from has got to the point where it's beyond its best, so we've had to stop the sale of the mini cask. It's something we may revisit in the future. We think it's something that could work really well in barbecue season, for example, but it's not something we're going to be doing for a little while yet. At the new site, I wouldn't say we're quite fully up to speed yet, but we are brewing there. In fact, we started packaging up there. First few things have come off the canning line this week, so we have some improvements still to make. But I think it's only appropriate at this time that we give a shout out to any of the team that might be watching, because they've been having to work unnecessarily hard to overcome a few of the niggles that we've had at the start of production up there. So if any of you are listening, you have our eternal gratitude. I know it's not been easy, guys. It will get better once we get through some of those niggles.
We've obviously gone from brewing on the kit behind us, which is quite a... It's not a basic brewing system. It's very much the best that we could afford at the time, but it's a completely different ball game, I guess, to what we're brewing on at the new site. So there was always going to be some teething issues. So yeah, we're getting there with it, but it's just taking a little longer per each brew day than we'd hoped. But every day we brew in there, it's getting a bit easier, and we're getting things running a bit smoother. And in the meantime, we've actually started brewing here again. So is this one of the subjects later on? Am I jumping the gun, or are we?
No. It feels right to discuss it now. So Alistair, who has been working with us for some time, but only on a kind of casual basis, we're pleased to say has now joined us on a permanent basis, and he's principally going to be aligned to this brewery here. And the intention, as I think we've disclosed in the past, was for us to do kind of barrel-aged beers and sour beers here. But with the upcoming bar reopening and us having so much going on up the road, we're actually going to be using most of the capacity here to produce cask beer for at least the first month or two.
Yeah, which is really exciting, because it's been so long since we've been able to brew cask beer, and we've really milked it. So we've found in some of our cellars in our bars old cask beer that we were going to pour down the drain, and we've tapped them, and we've drank a couple of pints of them when we've been doing taste testing and seeing how the beer ages, which has been weirdly nice. It's been so this certainly isn't fresh cask beer, but we've tasted it, and it's been so enjoyable because it's been so long since we've been able to enjoy a fresh pint of cask beer. So
it's been weird, because the science of it suggests that certain beers would age quicker than others, and the hazy ones are the ones that are supposed to age quicker, and the one that's probably kept its flavour longest and tasted the best for longest has been our hazy cask beer.
Yeah. So
it kind of confounds science, but
defies convention.
It did taste pretty epic up until the end.
Yeah, no, it's really good. It's funny because I'm just looking at some of the comments about Lee's Lego trainers, and but when I see them on the screen, they do look like football boots or Lego trainers. But when you look at them in person, it's some sort of effect with the
Lego trainers.
Yeah, so look at the screen. It looks so But yeah, sorry, back onto a few questions. Before we go on the questions, cask beer. We've got cask beer, two batches of cask beer in the tanks behind us. First two beers, Karma Chameleon and Haze of Thunder. We're brewing Tonkoko and Marasiotto, our English bitter, on Monday, Tuesday. So when beer gardens reopen, fingers crossed it happens on the timescales we've been talking about, 12th of April, we're going to have 4 different cask beers in our venues that are open, and we'll talk more about that later on.
So don't give too much away, because you're talking about that later.
Yeah, but we'll also have those beers available for other pubs to be able to buy, so we'll be able to get cask beer again, which is pretty exciting. So we've got a question here from Alan. I think it says Alan. How long is the usual process when creating a beer from deciding upon the hops, ingredients, taste and ABV to the end result, and what's been the quickest turnaround, or wish you'd left for longer?
On our scale, a quick turnaround's not particularly achievable, because you've got to come up with a concept, you've got to name it, you've got to design a brand, you've got to hand it over to the branding team, who then put that into kind of the artwork. Then the artwork has to go across to the label company that provides the label. The label goes to the canning company, who apply it to the can. The can comes to you, and then you can package the beer. So we're looking probably 6 to 8 weeks all in to do any new beer, really.
And that's been pretty much the case since lockdown. So we've been trying to be as advanced and as planned, as prepped as we can. But often it becomes a bit of a last-minute dash, and we have to let you guys know pretty late on. But what we have done a lot more of, and what we'll be able to do more of again, is when it's not driven by cans, when it's back to cask and keg driven, then we don't have to wait as long for the turnaround. So we can brew a beer, that beer could be packaged in 2 weeks' time and be ready to sell to the public in 3 weeks' time. And in that 3 week period, we can develop our branding concept, get the branding signed off, and get the bump clips printed. So in theory, cask and keg beer, we can turn around much, much quicker.
And what we're trying to do this year, for pretty much the first time ever, is to look many, many months ahead in terms of what we're going to be producing, what we're going to call it, how we're going to brand it. I wouldn't say that's gone as smoothly as we would like it to have done so far, but we are getting better. So if we can have things like names and branding lined up, then all we have to do is brew and package the beer, then we can kind of make that a little bit slicker. But we have work to do on that.
Yeah. It's interesting. We're also doing other things as well. So our cans shrink sleeve labels. So at the moment, you can see the cans in front of you. They have a heat shrinked label applied to them in advance of us packaging them. So we have to be more organised to be able to get those printed in advance, get the cans delivered to us to fill them. Going forwards, we've actually ordered a label application machine. So we will still have the same full can designs for some of our beers, but some of the specials we want to turn around quicker. They'll be on a printed can with a nice pattern, and then a stickered label around them. So this is the type of thing that the likes of Beavertown used to do, where they had a really cool black can with a pattern on it, and the sticker was applied to that. So we've got lots of work to do to get to the stage where we're ready to release those.
And there are a few advantages to that. Obviously, recyclability, sustainability is a big motivator, because that is the plastic label that's currently applied around our can. So we're going to move into a world where it's going to be a paper one, everything's fully recycled, dead easy for you to do. You'll be able to rip off the label, and that's the other real attraction of it. We have some fantastic artwork, but it's not all too easy for you guys to remove it from the can and do anything with it. So once it becomes a sticker applied around the can, you can take it off and you can slap it on your bedroom wall, or whatever you choose to do with it.
Yeah, so some interesting questions come through. So one of them was about some breweries are able to provide cask beer to the venues like Trembling Madness, who can then serve it to take out. Controversial, but I'm going to say it anyway. I don't think they've brewed those beers for the venues. I think they already had those beers available from 3+ months ago, and they've sold those beers to the venues to sell to the public. We didn't want to do that, because you never know when the cask is breached and it's tapped and vented and tasted, it might not be at its best. So it's better to do any sort of cask repackaging in your own venue where you can taste it and you know for sure it's good enough to sell before it goes out to the public.
Yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't make a lot of business sense for us to brew a batch of cask beer when the minimum quantity we can do it is going to be about 36 casks if we only have the ability to sell 2, 3, 4 of those casks. So yeah, we've decided not to do that. So it's a shame our cask beer isn't out there right now. I mean, I know Wayne and I, it's been one of the things we've missed the most in this whole lockdown period. For me in particular, it's given an extra appreciation to what cask beer is to not be able to have it.
Yeah, makes you something you can't have. It makes you miss it more, doesn't it? And someone's also asked, this is Mike, with regards to cask beer production, how difficult will it be if the bar reopening date changes? From Mike. So, in terms of cask production, it's not going to be difficult for us. We've already committed to the brews on this kit and the vessels that are going to go into. It'll be frustrating for lots of reasons. One, we'll be sat on finished beer ready to sell. But two, our own venues won't be able to reopen. But obviously, public safety comes first, so we'll see what the government say and how things work out. But it's really not too big a deal, because once we've brewed fresh cask beer, it'll be good for 2 to 3 months. So I can't see any delay being more than 2 to 3 weeks, not 2 to 3 months. Touch wood, I shouldn't probably have said that. But
No, surely if they knock it back, it's going to be a week here, a week there, isn't it? But even if it's a month, we've compromised the best before by a month. We've still got 2 months left on it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you guys are going to be going out in droves and drinking as much as you can, as quick as you can. Obviously, sensibly. As soon as you have the opportunity to, because I know I will be.
Yeah, and we've been super prudent. Our new brew house, in one turn of the brewery, we can brew 120 firkins of beer, so 120 casks, each cask has 72 pints. We didn't want to do that because we don't know how popular cask beer, well, we know cask beer is going to be popular, but we don't know when pubs are going to open and everything else. So we played it safe, and we brewed at this site where each turn is theoretically 40 firkins of beer, and we allow for a 10% wastage, so we assume that we'll get 36.
Yeah, many brewers like us have been burned before with these dates moving and shifting and lockdown 2, lockdown 3. So we didn't want to be in that position again. So we are being super cautious this time, as are the bars.
Yeah.
The bars where they would ordinarily fill their cellar, and as soon as they finish one thing, they've got something else in the cellar they can go and tap. They haven't been running it like that through this period. They've just been running it absolutely hand to mouth, taking the minimum in they can, because they don't want to be stuck with that cellar full of beer again.
So we had a message from Alan Kendra, just had their tasty yuzu food from the market tap in Pocklington to enjoy this with. That sounds amazing. I wish we'd have thought to have some yuzu food before we started this.
Yeah, let's not go there. I can see a comment from our friend Melissa's just popped up there. Cask beer is best straight from a cask in a pub. I can't wait, but until I can have it at its best, I'm willing to stick with can, bottle and mini keg. Can't agree more, Melissa. We do what we have to through this period, but I'm sure we'll all be in the bars drinking cask again as soon as we can.
Yeah. So this is from Adam. Are you going to keep the pace up on can releases over the coming year and keep a different market, given you've gained for during lockdown? 100%. Yeah. We basically came up with a brewery release schedule, which has been a tiny bit impacted by the delays at the new site. But the plan is to release 2 different beers pretty much every week for the rest of the year. So it's just a little bit of pressure on ourselves, but yeah, we've had a few hiccups at the start, but we'll catch up and we'll make sure that we keep lots of variety coming out for people who are drinking at home or people who are coming out to the pub and taking a few beers home, or just coming to the pub in general and wanting to try variety. We've got a lot of cool ideas and lots of returning beers we want to bring back, so yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting.
Yeah. You can say many things about us, but one thing you can't say is that we didn't lack ambition.
So these, what do they call it, the Sweepstakes? No, not Sweepstakes has been going tonight. So, I think we were both talking about it before we went live, and money's on me, I'm guessing.
Although we were saying, if it was like a game of roulette where you've got red and black and the unlikely is the 0, what would happen? Who would win if both Wayne and I went at the same time?
Not live on TV. I saw someone else saying a comment earlier about the who sets the pace in terms of when you're drinking along at home, in terms of when you go on the next beer. I think the pace is roughly half an hour per beer. If we finish ours early, we've got a little reserve of beer tucked away off camera where you can't see. But there's some beers you'll see will get excited and drink.
Well, I'm feeling hard done that. I can see that you've got a pint and a half down there, and I've got that.
And that's why I'm always first to go to the toilet normally.
But I believe some of you at home, you buy the pack to share. Maybe some of you have the sour, some of you have the dark beers, you don't all necessarily like the same things. Okay, so what other questions have we got? Any others coming in?
It's kind of like we went through a freeze on the screen, and now they're all coming up. And Hazy Haze, unfortunately, you are going to lose that bet because I'm going to have to take the first break.
Wow. Well, you could have passed the question on when you went past. Right. Oh, hi Ian. So this Ian, our friend from up in Newcastle, who's joined us as part of the audience before. Any plans for a Kolsch? We've actually brewed one before, Ian. Not here. We brewed with People Like Us, which are a Danish brewery who work with people who have autism and other such related difficulties. Amazing guys, Lars and the rest of the team over there. And we went over to Denmark literally the week before lockdown. And we brewed a Kolsch out there at a brewery called Flying Couch. So People Like Us, they don't have their own brewery, they gypsy brew in other people's breweries. They were brewing in a place called Flying Couch, so we went over there, we brewed this Kolsch with them. We did a modern interpretation of a Kolsch, and we used Hallertau Blanc and Hallertau Mander Bavaria hops, from what I remember. So they're kind of German type hops, but they have a bit more punch to them. Mandarina Bavaria, you'll not be surprised to hear, has a kind of orange citrus type character to it. And Hallertau Blanc is kind of thought of as the poor man's Nelson Sauvin. So Nelson Sauvin's a New Zealand hop, which Sauvin is like Sauvignon Blanc. It has this gooseberry white wine-like character, and this German hop has a similar type character. So we have brewed this Kolsch there before, Ian. Actually heard from Rune over at People Like Us literally 2 weeks ago, who said the beer has proved to be that popular they were looking to rebrew it for a second time.
We still haven't tasted it.
Yeah, regrettably, we went out to Denmark. The day before we were due to appear at this beer festival, there was a national announcement that banned public gatherings of over 1,000 people. So it wasn't exactly the best attended beer festival. And then they sold that beer just as the whole of Denmark, as the rest of the world did, went into lockdown.
It's a cool festival though. We got to spend some quality time with some amazing breweries and interact a little bit with a new market, and we sell quite a bit of beer now to Scandinavia, so it's been a nice introduction.
Yeah, we were in between Yeasty Boys and Lervig.
Yeah, pretty cool space to be.
Are we allowed to say about Lervig?
No.
No. I kind of got it now.
There's the teaser though. So
you could probably read between the lines on that one.
So we also got another question from Bob. Did you run across the can shortage problem like others were experiencing? So we've been really lucky throughout all this. We've got a great relationship with our supplier who supplies with our shrink sleeve cans.
So I don't know if they watch this. Shout out to Sam, Sarah and the team over at Osthouse if they do.
But we order quite a lot of cans, and because we're so prolific in the different beers we make and how often we do it, there's great relationship between ourselves and Osthouse. So we've been really fortunate. We have to be super organised and try and keep the guys at Osthouse up to date with how many beers we're going to be bringing out, what volumes we're going to need to do, and we work really close with them to tell them those volumes. So we've not been in the same predicament as a lot of other breweries. We have struggled, as of most breweries and businesses, and we've had to delay the launch of beers because of cans weren't ready. But it's just the position.
We've not struggled in the way that many have. And Sam, I don't actually know, does she own the company? I think she might do.
I've never asked her.
Yeah, so Sam, who's like our principal contact over at Oast House, has been absolutely amazing. You know, in these ways, the ways these days where if you're with an insurer or a bank, they kind of exploit your apathy. And if you're the existing customer, you get ripped off because all they're interested in is securing the new customer. Sam, thankfully for us, doesn't run her business that way. She appreciates the business we've given her over time, and in these times when other people have not been able to can, she could have capitalised and just got all these new customers. This has probably done a little bit of that, but rather than doing that, she's done the honourable thing, and she's made sure that she's looked after her existing customers. So yeah, I think that should be lauded. More people aren't like that, really.
Yeah, definitely. I've taken a conscious decision to turn around and look at you guys instead of. There's a massive screen, and obviously I want to read the questions you guys ask, but at the same time I realise that I'm just looking in the opposite direction to what we're trying to do. It's something new, and we'll adapt. It's really good to get the interactive feedback.
I'm going to have to make
guys.
you look that way now, though, because the beers are to your right, and you need to pass them over.
What beers?
But if I could just say a little bit more on the can shortage. So there's been some interesting dynamics in the can market in the last year. So Coca-Cola, for example, have massive sway in terms of what the 2 or 3 major international can producers do, to the point where they're able to tell them who else they're able to trade with. And let's just leave it there. I think you can probably read between the lines as to what that might mean for the rest of us that order in smaller volumes. Okay, so we didn't point out at the start that we do have this graphic in the middle here. So if you do join us partway through the stream and you're not sure about what we're drinking at this particular point in time, it will always be displayed here in the middle. So we're now moving on to Lupu Lion, which I'm now seeing is it's time for me to carry on talking.
Time for you to speak for a change.
So Lupu Lion is the latest addition to our core range. So we used to have a beer in our core range called Gallagher, which regrettably we had to discontinue because, in fact, good for us, for the first time we recognised it might have been a copyright infringement, and we discontinued the beer before we got sued, rather than waiting to be sued. So Gallagher was a 1980s computer game. We obviously have a thing for computer games, which when we made that beer we didn't think would ever see the light of day again, but it got re-released on the PS4 for whatever reason. So we discontinued that maybe could be as much as a year ago now.
We got obviously lockdown, so yeah.
About a year ago.
We did do a little small batch release during lockdown because we had some cans.
Well, yeah. Okay, so I know 9 to 12 months ago we discontinued that particular beer, and we were comfortable with that decision at that time. But then on reflection we realised it left a bit of a gap in the range. We didn't have something around that 5% mark that was a little bit more classic, more the kind of beer that Wayne and I had first drank when we got into craft beer. What you might more call the gateway beer into craft beer. So we decided we had to create something that once again filled that void. We have created this recipe between myself and Matt, who is our new head brewer, and we've gone totally classic. So there's some classic hops in there, as well as it being backed up with some of the more modern hops like Citra. And you'll see from the appearance we are going for the kind of traditional clarity. It's supposed to be easy drinking. There's supposed to be a reasonable amount of bitterness in there, but without it being like super challenging. So we're not going for this like ridiculous level of softness that you get with all these new hazy beers. It's supposed to give you that level of bitterness that you have one sip, you go, oh, and then you kind of like have to have the next sip to get rid of the previous bitterness, and then you just keep going. And for me, that's what's brilliant about beers like this. And if you think about Jaipur, that's what made me fall in love with craft beer. I had this thing where you get this flavour intensity on the first taste, then you get this bitterness, and you're like, well, I need to now have another drink to get rid of that bitterness. And you just, before you know it, you've smashed in 5 pints of this thing, and you're all over the place. But
Just apologies for a bit of background noise, Andy. You flick the process chiller off. We've only got a couple of beers. That'll be fine for a few hours, but we best remember to turn it back on later on. So there's a break on the side of it.
If you don't know how to do it, I'll do it when I go to Lou. But
Which will be soon.
I'm in no hurry to go to Lou because I could go anytime. I've already won, but
he's already going. You just don't know because he's wearing black jeans. So you might have noticed this about us this year in particular. We are loving the original type of beers that got us into it, West Coast. So the bitter style, so for an APA, we've done a few of them so far this year. They have that bitter, piney background. I'm just watching the guys off screen here, just looking at the kit, walking around it, walking past the switch.
Guys, near the side of it, you flick up the plastic case,
lift up the plastic
thing, flick down the ice layer.
Yeah, there we go. So hopefully you guys can hear us a little bit better now. These are the type of beers that really got us into beer in the first place. So we always liked beer, but this got us into hoppy American style beers, and now we've got a chance to brew those type of beers and put them into our range, and hopefully you guys enjoy them as well. We aren't brewing your easy drinking East Coast IPAs. We can do them, and we'll do them still as specials. This is the type of beer that I'd want to go to the pub and drink a few pints of. So
yeah, I think with this, and like you were saying there with Big Eagle, we kind of feel like the whole beer market, the UK craft market, if you consider it like a pendulum, it's swung too far towards the easy, hazy stuff. And after I've had a sip, I want to know I've had a sip. Whereas with these hazy, juicy ones, it's kind of out of your palate as quick as it's into your palate. So with this, with Big Eagle, I think we've gone back more to our roots, not so much as a business, but our roots as beer drinkers.
And what we're trying to do is we're looking at the range, and if you look at our core range, and we're going to release more information about our core range in the next coming weeks. But you've got your Karma Chameleon, which is a nice, easy drinking session pale. You've got Lupu Lion, which is your APA. It's still easy drinking, but it's a bit more, a bit more of a fuller drink. And then you've got Big Eagle, which is a big hitter, 6.5%. Traditional West Coast. So they're kind of like a little bit of an animal series there in terms of these are more your West Coast style drinks,
the classic,
the classic ones. But we also have, that goes with those beers, we have Hazer Thunder. Yeah. So Hazer Thunder is a hazy pale ale, but it's an easy drinking cask beer. We are doing it in keg and can as well, but then we've also got to go with those beers. We have Time Travelling Taxi, which is your double dry hopped pale ale. So it's like a car series where you've got the more modern style in the cars. And
I'm going to be completely honest with the guys. We'd like to think that was pre-planned, but we got to a point where we're like, do you think it's weird that both of the hazy ones have got cars on it?
And the other ones have got animals and.
So we've decided that now is a thing. Yeah, if it has an animal on, that's classic. If it has a cow on, that's the more modern hazy East Coast style.
So that's in our core range. We obviously have the other things in our core range, like the fun stuff. So the caricatures, that's Goose Willis, the Gooseberry Fool Sour, Rhubarb Streisand, the Rhubarb and Custard Pale Ale, and then Juice Forsyth, the Tropical Fruit Pale Ale IPA. So, and
then set out all on its own, our little cow, Tom Coco.
Tom Coco, the cow, is in the animal series. It's one of the originals. It's OGs. It's
original gangster.
So we'll give you a bit more information about the core range and in digital media over the coming weeks to try and interpret what we think when we brew this beer.
A little bit more on this beer. So we did mention earlier it had 4 hops. Those hops are Columbus, Cascade, Mosaic, even Citra. I can get my words out. We mentioned it's brewed to a gluten-free recipe. What that means is it's brewed entirely with barley. We can't use oats or wheat. I'll come back to why in a second. And we treat it with an enzyme, something called Brewer's Clarix. And this enzyme chews up the gliadin, the gluten molecules, and it reduces the allergenic level of the beer to a level that is acceptable to most. Legally, the target is for it to be under 20 parts per billion. Testing we've done has proved it to be under 10 parts per billion. So in the UK, we can classify this as a gluten-free beer. The reason I say in the UK is because around the world there are different interpretations. In the US, we could not call this a gluten-free beer. The only way you could call something a gluten-free beer in the US is to produce it with the cereal grain that didn't even have gluten in the first place. So you'd have to use something like spelt, for example, which may or may not be a nice cereal, but I know it does not make for a nice beer. So thankfully in the UK our rules are a little bit different.
So if you are a celiac or you just don't like gluten, apologies for this first iteration, not even mentioning that on the can, but we didn't have the certification back at the time, so you can't risk putting a beer out into the market if you don't have that certification. We've had it since, so we know that beer is gluten-free, and the next batch that we release will have the gluten-free stamp on the back of it to confirm that. But yeah, we also, it's quite a nice thing to go to market with a beer without people being negative. Unfortunately, whether you like it or not, if something says something free, people automatically go into the beer with a negative perspective and think, oh well, something's missing. Well, it's not something missing. The beer does taste good regardless of whether it's got gluten in or not. And it's quite nice that a lot of people have tried this beer without knowing that it was gluten-free, so hopefully they don't have any preconceptions, they enjoy the beer, and now that they know it's gluten-free, they're still going to enjoy the beer and they're still going to buy the beer.
Yeah, it's a shame, because gluten-free, all it means is we treated it with an enzyme that digested the thing that made it allergenic. It hasn't changed the way it tastes, it hasn't changed the body, it hasn't changed the appearance, it is essentially the exact same beer. So it's a shame that this stigma exists around this, and things like putting vegan on your cans.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if we could live in a world where I could put our beer is vegan, and the reason for that is we haven't put the fish in. But regrettably, we're not permitted to do that, or it wouldn't be great marketing. So unfortunately, we have to kind of brand in a way that means those that are vegan, those that are celiac, those that live with a gluten-free diet, unfortunately have to do the legwork. They have to find out what is suitable for them, rather than us always being able to kind of paint these things as what they are.
So there was quite a few interesting comments. I was going to reply to a few of them, but I probably missed them out now. One of them was about an Imperial Small Ton Cocoa. 100% yes.
Yeah, that needs to happen.
So anyone who missed out on Small Ton Cocoa when it first came round, it'll be really happy to know that we've got a very, very small batch of it just about to release. Next week, is it? It's going to be launched next week. Or relaunched. One of the advantages of the big kit is we can split our batches, and we've managed to brew a fresh batch of ton cocoa, split some of it off and brew small ton cocoa at the same time. Yeah. So that's pretty exciting. And we're not even doing it. It's in the pack, isn't it? But we're not doing it on the tasting. Oh, I still haven't had a can of it. It's just so annoying. I did a taster when it was in tank.
In that case, I can tell it's really good.
I'll try it when it's out properly. So another really...
before we get into them, because you're going to need them when I go to the loo, let me just finish talking about this beer. So I just wanted to finish off by telling you about the name and the branding. So we haven't got logos. I never have branding on, and for once you haven't got branding on.
Yes, I have. I've got two lots of branding on.
Sorry,
I don't wear branding.
Well,
Brew,
if you focus in on our logo, you will see that there are two major components tonight. You've got the...
Pick up the can that you're drinking and look at the can. Oh yeah, it's a black and white version.
So you've got, within our logo, you've got two lions at the bottom, and which is at the bottom? Two lions at the bottom and then two eagles at the top. And for a long time within our range, we've had beers inspired by the eagle. The eagle, of course, being the national animal of America, New York being intended to be a play on New York. We make American-inspired beers. So for a long time we had Little Eagle, we discontinued that. We had Big Eagle, we discontinued that. We brought it back as Big Eagle 2020. We now have it back in the core range. And this, apart from one-off beta release many years ago, we've never really done anything around the Lion name. So we decided that we really should have something in the range that kind of leans or plays towards the Lion. Andy off camera is doing a bit of a... Is that a Lion hat?
Yeah.
I thought you were doing a thingy of Wall Street, like... So we decided we needed to have something that was based on the lion, in the range, and we called it Lupu Lion because in hops there's a substance called Lupu Lion. So Lupu Lion is the yellow stuff that kind of looks like pollen. It's not pollen. It is sticky and resinous, again a bit like pollen, but it's not pollen. It's a product with about 500 rather different chemicals. One of those gives all beers their bitterness, and all the other things in there give beer their aroma and flavour. So we thought it'd be pretty cool to call it Lupu Lion, so it's like Lupu Lion, but it has the lion that comes from our logo, our history. So at that point, I'm stepping out.
I just spotted a comment from Alan Humphreys. Wayne's turned into Simon from Real Ale, showing the beer to the camera. We need to work on that Welsh accent though. It wasn't the beer, I was trying to show the logo, but it was quite hard to get that point across because Lee was talking, and Lee's much louder than me, so you probably wouldn't have been able to hear me. So I'll move on to a couple of questions that we've got in the meantime. So any chance of a single hop series of beer so we can learn more of the impact of each variety? That's from Alan. Funny you should say that. So our major hop supplier is Yakima Chief, and we've got a beer we're launching, a collab beer we're brewing with them imminently. We've had to delay it because we wanted to make sure that we could launch it when pubs were open. And one of the plans is to showcase the different hop varieties that they've got. So we're going to brew the same base beer, and we're going to use different varieties of hops and to show what the different series will be. So yeah, we've kind of got that in the pipe work at the moment. So that'll be out hopefully in a couple of months' time. And then we've got one, it doesn't say who it's from, but which beer has surprised you the most in a good or a bad way? I don't know actually. I've got people laughing off camera. I'm not sure which the beer is for that, but I guess the first one for me was Tom Coco. So when we first brewed Tom Coco, it was just completely different to what we'd seen out there before and tasted before. We were so pleased with it. It was just kind of like surprised us in a really good way that the beer was something we really wanted to brew, and it tasted like we wanted it to, but also the public loved it, so we were really pleased with that one. I guess I don't know, it depends how long you've been drinking our beers for. We did a beer called Waikiki. If you remember that was from about three years ago. It was a Blue Hawaiian inspired cocktail.
Well, it's supposed to be blue.
Blue Hawaiian. It was green.
I did up green.
Yeah, so we poured the beer. We were at beer festivals telling people it's a Blue Hawaiian inspired beer and it's green. And they're like, "What is this?" But it tasted nice, but it was green beer, so it was pretty strange.
Which is a thing in Japan. Because there's the
spirulina. Spirulina, yeah.
Yeah, you can get spirulina lager in Japan. You're kind of doing the health food thing at the same time as getting drunk.
Yeah, so
what did I miss there? Any good questions?
No, it was about one of them was about a single hop series. So I was saying about the YCH collab. We're going to effectively do that, which is a really good way to do it.
Cool.
So is planning ever impacted by what reactions you anticipate? Like a layer is not going to get a great lager, is not going to get ratings, but it's easy drinking. Does it put you off? Yes and no. So as a brewery, we want people to enjoy our beer. We want people to give us honest feedback on it, and we want to get a good brewery average, which then makes other people aware of us who haven't heard of us before. But at the same time, we also brew the beers that we like and we want to drink. So Lupu Lion, in my opinion, is one of the best beers we've brought out for a while. It isn't going to score highly because it's not an East Coast IPA. It's not an East Coast hazy modern beer.
No, and it's not extreme enough. It's very much a mainstream beer.
And the same with Big Eagle. Those two beers are my go-to beers. I will drink so much of them. And when we get cask beer back, it's going to be the low ABV cask, which won't score highly. But at the same time, they are going to be our biggest selling beers in volume because people drink them and they don't necessarily go onto a ratings app to review them. They just enjoy them. And then you do a out there beer like a Goes, a triple fruited Goes, and you're going to get a lot of instant feedback and scores on it. Is the triple fruit grows going to make the brewery money? Not
Right.
really, but it's the type of beer that we like to
There
drink.
are
and
other
experiment
factors
with.
to it. So Wayne and I are brewery owners, we're also bar owners. So we have people who are going to want to drink lager. So if they're going to want to drink lager, we want them to drink our lager. So we are going to make lager, and we're going to make the best lager that we can make. For all the reasons that Wayne has outlined there, it isn't necessarily going to score highly, but as long as we think we've made a great lager, and you guys who enjoy lager are able to drink it and think, yeah, that's a good craft lager, then that's enough. We make enough extreme beers, hopefully, to counteract that in terms of reputation.
Yeah, and also if you come into our bar or you go to any bar in the UK, and we're a little bit skewed because we're obviously brewery tap rooms. People come in here and predominantly drink beer, but even though they predominantly drink beer, you come in here and you look at what the biggest selling drinks or beers are going to be, and it's going to be a lager, a bitter, a pale ale, and then all the weird and wacky stuff we brew. So it doesn't matter how many different like beers that we brew that we want to drink, if they're 10% stout, a 6% pale or whatever, those other beers are always going to outsell them, because that's what, if you come in here for a pint with 4 of your mates, one of them doesn't want to drink craft beer, they want to drink something they know and they recognise, so you're always going to have big sales in those areas, and we want a product alongside the beers that we want people to drink that is just as good or hopefully as enjoyable as the other beers. So we want to make our own lager, we want to make our own bitter, we want to make these beers that people want to drink, or sorry, not necessarily want to drink, the people who come in with their friends are going to drink, and hopefully they'll then convert ultimately at some stage onto the...
If you're online now and you're with us and you're drinking these beers, you are the inner circle, you are the 5% of the market. The rest of the mass market drinks to not taste what they're drinking. They drink things like Budweiser, where the less flavour it has in it, the less offended they can be by it.
And
Wayne's disappointed.
Well, no, I'm disappointed because this is my point. It's like this beer is the type of beer that I would drink, and already it's gone.
I've got loads.
And I was looking at the time. I was like, yeah. So someone said about pace setting earlier. That's what happens. So if it's a beer that I really like and enjoy, like this, you will know it'll go in no time.
Looks like you're going to have to dip into your reserves.
So here comes the reserve pint.
I think that was pretty much everything we had to say on Lupu Lion.
Yeah.
So maybe we go on to reopening plans, or did you want to do?
Yeah, no, definitely. So this is quite nice for us to come into this building, kind of rewind 5 years and look at the vessels how they used to be, and it gives us a lot of hope and inspiration for what we're going to do this year. So when we can reopen properly and we and you guys are all allowed back into our venue, we've got some real exciting plans, and the starting of which is the fortunate or unfortunate impact of COVID is that we've got a pavement license like everyone else, so we can actually use the beer garden properly for the first time. So we used to open the yard up for events on occasions. We used to get temporary event notices. We've actually got permission to use our car park as a extension to the bar for the next few months up until summer. So we're going to do this properly. We know that pubs can reopen in the beer garden, or we hope they can, on the 12th of March. April. It's not 12th of March. It certainly isn't this weekend.
I wish it was.
12th of April. So in that time, we're going to get that space ready. We're going to decorate it. We're going to make it feel like a really cool lived-in space. We're not brewing here as often anymore, so we don't need to use it for storage of spent grain and all the other things we used to. So we're going to get that space ready to go, and we're going to have some nice, safe, socially distanced tables where people can enjoy a beer. And
at that point, I'd like to give a shout out to our landlord David, who I discovered earlier this week is one of our subscribers and does watch regularly, and has given permission to us in the last week to be able to use our yard as a bar, because we're not able to do the internal stuff.
So we'll have some cans of Viking DNA for David to one side, because he likes the dark beers. He'll be waiting for DRADIS later on, won't he?
Yeah.
the nightcap. So we're really excited about that. This is something that we always, whenever we've done events over the last 5 years, the summer when we've had nice weather, we've been outside in the garden, we've had a food vendor there, it's always felt really cool. It's kind of felt like the type of environment that me and Lee envisioned when we went down to London and been to brewery tap rooms down there. But we also were conscious that we didn't want to upset the neighbours, we don't want people complaining. But every time we've done it, barring our launch event, which we were naive, and we had a lot of loud noise, but we've moved on since then, and every time we've done it since then, they've been amazing events, and it felt really good. So this is the type of thing that we want people to come down to our tap room and enjoy that. So yeah, fingers crossed, the 12th of April, we'll have the yard open. We're going to call it Brew York Brewers Yard. We like the puns and the cheesiness. And yeah, we're going to have plenty of outdoor seating. We're going to have lots of beers ready for you guys to enjoy. And then hopefully, things go to plan, and 5 weeks after that, you can start drinking indoors venues to the rule of 6. So we'll have the tap room, the new extended tap room. So now that we're not using the whole space for brewing anymore, we actually have the front of the brewery where the sliding doors are is covered by our license, and we're going to hopefully have you guys sat in that area as well as the tap room. The beer hall will be open again, and then our what we used to use as more temporary event spaces, our cocktail lounge, those type of rooms will all be ready, so we'll have much more space for you guys to come in and drink again. And the real exciting bit for us is tank beer!
I was wondering when you were going to drop that one.
So we've got tank beer. So we've ordered, well, we've actually got one on site now, but we've got 2 more turning up in the next couple of weeks, serving tanks. So basically, we brew the beer. Instead of putting it into kegs or cans or cask, we put it into a 500 litre serving tank above the mezzanine, and you get to drink that beer super fresh from the tank. So that's going to be super cool. And then we're also looking at the tanks around us now, thinking if it's popular enough, some of these bigger vessels might become serving tanks. So we've got a lot of cool ideas for this. So you're going to get to drink the beer really super fresh, straight from the tank. And yeah, it's...
Yeah, well, you know, the minimum distance, or maximum distance, it may have travelled to your glass is about 10 15 metres.
Yeah, it's just nuts, and it's going to be really cool, and yeah. And Lupu Lion will definitely be one of those tank beers, because I'm just going to drink it all myself if no one else drinks it.
Yeah, I don't doubt that.
Yeah, we'll try. So yeah, so that's that's the plan at the moment. And then when the pubs reopen as normal, so that's the 21st of June date. Hopefully it really is normal, and hopefully we can still continue the outdoor space. So one of the comments you keep seeing on your tasting is from Joanna Rawlin, who happens to be the manager of our bar in Pocklington.
I was just about to say, you've skipped over a bit there. You need to mention Pock and Leeds.
Yeah, so with Joe, we're going to see what we can do up there. We have an outdoor space, effectively a beer garden. It's very, very small. It's 3 to 4 tables, depending on what the council will let us do, and there's only 2 to 4 seats per table, so it's very, very restricted. But we're hopefully going to get a plan in place to open that up so you guys can book in and drink in the outdoor space while we've got the takeaway open as well. We'll confirm all the plans for that as soon as we can. COVID cough on my left. But yeah, and then Leeds, unfortunately, Leeds does have an outdoor space, but it isn't licensed, so we won't be open in Leeds until we can open indoors. So we'll hopefully put a plan together to launch Leeds when we can open indoors, even if it's rule of 6. Hopefully we'll have something ready for you guys to do to come and join us then. But it's really difficult, and we'll have to launch a bar under restrictions, but we'll make it work somehow. And after Lee's coughing fit, I need to go to the toilet again.
Turns out I can't breathe.
Over to you again.
Right. I have a question. Right. What will be the capacity at the Leeds bar? Great. Anybody know the answer? So when capacity? Capacity at Leeds.
Capacity of Leeds?
Yeah.
We don't know, because we haven't done these social distances set up. We didn't know what we were going to open it as.
But in a non-social distance world.
Non-social distance world, we'll have about 60 inside.
So 30 max maybe in a social distance world, we'd have to imagine. Sorry Chris, can't give you a better answer on that one right now. Thoughts on the cream egg beer? So was this Goose Island Cadbury's? Yeah. So I saw this, and you want me to be disgusted with it, don't you? But I just wish we'd thought of it first. So I'm sorry about that one. Yeah, I think we are at like full tilt craft now, though, when things like that are happening, when Cadbury's are combining with, albeit an AB InBev, craft brewery, but yeah, wow. So yeah, I don't think we can do what we do with beer and really turn our noses up at people who do Cadbury's cream egg beers. We just put, what was it, 1/3 of a ton of honeycomb into one of our birthday beers. So I don't think I can complain when people, which is essentially crunchies, I don't think I can complain when people put cream eggs in beers, when we're doing that. Yeah, do we have any other questions now, guys? Oh, it's gone. Who is replacing Blue's Barbecue? That would be Yuzu. So Yuzu is a Japanese Korean type food vendor. So they're in next door, they've already been up in POC, they're going to be over in Leeds. They do things like bao buns, ramen, gyoza, and the best thing that they do is a thing called duck fries. So it's fries topped with duck and loads of hoisin sauce. It's incredible. So the next question we have is, due to lager drinkers wanting the same taste time after time, is the control on brewing lager tighter than for ales? And that is from Belinda. I don't know if it's tighter. I think you're probably right in suspecting it is, though. So the thing with lager is there's so little flavour in there that if you've made any mistake in your manufacturing process, it's going to be very evident. So if you've got your temperatures wrong, if you've done anything, if you've not got your hygiene right, and something's kind of come in and contaminated your beer, in something like a lager where there's no big hop character, there's no big malt character, any defect is going to be very, very evident. So those that make lagers, and those that make macro lagers in particular, I may not necessarily want to drink what they produce, but I respect the science and the discipline of how they do it. So yes, as you've suggested there, I think there is a lot to that. And you can decide for yourself what you think of that. Okay, so
back onto your question earlier, when I was off in the toilet, I did some research.
Oh, right.
So John, our Robbo, confirmed that our actual capacity, non-COVID in Leeds, will be around 100.
Really?
Yeah, so it's
wow.
Quite a bit more than expected. I estimated, and then fingers crossed, we're going to go for a pavement licence there, so we can use the outdoor space a little bit, and we'll hopefully get another 20, maybe 30 people out there. So we shall see. So on to the next beer. Apparently it's me now, isn't it? Every time I come back from the other side of the building, I've got to warm my hands up. It's so cold up here. It doesn't feel that cold until you move to another area. So Abraham Lingon, which was my name, so I get a free case of beer.
Oh yeah, because you need all the help there.
So we do a competition for names. Whenever we come up with a beer, if anyone, a member of the team, comes up with a name that we use in the beer, they get a free case of that beer. So Abraham Lingon for me then.
Although it has to be said, it was the second choice name.
Yeah, we
the
did.
The first choice name was Inspector Norse, which I still think is epic. But who would have thought we'd be mentioning Flying Couch Brewery twice tonight? But we couldn't call it that. Because it turns out literally about a month before we intended to release this beer, Flying Couch over in Denmark, which is where we brewed with people like us, had already used that name.
How was your Abraham Lingon? I don't know how mine is, because you didn't bother pouring me one. So Abraham Lingon, 4.2%. So this is quite unusual. Normally when we do our tastings, you probably notice that we steadily increase in ABV, and that's usually because we've got some insanely high strength beers, which we do have one, but that's not the only reason. So usually when you taste beers, it's best to go up in ABV, because the stronger the beer is, the more impact it'll have on your palate. But the exception to that is sour beers. So sour beers are an amazing palate cleanser. So what we're doing here is we've had the two pale beers, we go to the sour, a bit of a palate cleanser, and then we'll finish on the stout. So 4.2%, so we're stepping down in ABV, but like I say, you've got the sourness. So this beer, God, really smells like it as well. It's based on a cocktail. So the cocktail is a Christie Extreme. I've not heard of that before. That was something you've had before, isn't it? Yeah,
just some research I've done. So, my wife's favourite cocktail is a Cosmopolitan, so it's kind of like a Cosmopolitan. And then there's another famous one called the Moscow Mule, which we'd mentioned earlier. So this is kind of a hybrid between the two. So it's got that kind of like dry berry, like a cranberry lingerie thing going on, but then it's got that ginger kind of heat.
Yeah, it is really nice actually. I've not tried this one yet. I've had a blend of it with something else. It's the first time I've actually tried it on its own. I very much get the cocktail vibe. Tropicana.
No, I really like this. And second mention for our existing landlord here tonight. When I was having a chat with him earlier in the week, he said one of the things he has enjoyed about being part of the subscription service is he now gets beers which he knows he would never buy, where he reads the descriptions and thinks that doesn't make sense, it shouldn't work, and then he drinks it, and he referenced this particular beer, and he said somehow you make it work.
One of the things that we get quite a lot is we get a lot of messages saying, really love the sound of that, but can you swap a beer out for us in your tasting pack? And I'm really sorry, but the answer is no, because the reason we've chosen a tasting pack and the beers we've chosen is for a reason, because we want to hopefully introduce you to something new, and you may try it tonight and never drink it again, but at least you've tried it. At least you know for a fact that you don't like that type of sour beer, or you don't like that because you've tried it. Whereas you look at the description, you go in the bar, you're like, I'm not going to order that because I know I won't like it. Hopefully we'll convince, I don't know, 2 out of 3, maybe hopefully more than that. We'll convince people that
for a time, that's why I enjoyed, earlier on in my craft journey, that's why I enjoyed being a Beer 52 subscriber. Because they'd send me things where I'd probably tell you, I ain't going to like that. But then because I paid for it, I'm now going to drink it.
At least you're Yorkshire.
Because I'm a Yorkshireman. I have to drink what I paid for. So I then drink it, and I wouldn't always like it, but sometimes I would be surprised and think, didn't think I was going to like that, but there you go.
But yeah, you get a lot of citrus notes from that beer.
Yeah, it's kind of brewed to the style of a classic German sour, like a Berliner Weiss, where you've got barley and then you've got about 40% wheat in it. It gets this real kind of clean, crisp character and real clean cleanliness to it in terms of appearance. And into that we've added the fruits and so forth.
And it's not heavy or anything. It's the body is relatively easygoing. So this would be amazing in the summer.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So it's nice warm weather. Let's just pretend we're warm and enjoy.
It reminds me, we did that Berliner Weiss 2.8%, reinvent the peel.
Oh yeah, yes, very much. Yeah.
So it's like that where we just added some other
different twist to it.
Yeah.
And that beer was amazing when you just finished you just climbed out of that kettle and sweating from emptying the
and
kettle.
it was 2.8%, so you could have like a couple and drive.
Yeah, that was the theory. So earlier on, I spotted a question that we didn't answer, which is about the vessels behind us, about why one of the manways is like waist height and one's. I don't know if you can actually see it. There's actually one at the top. One's a bit higher. In reality, there's lots of access to those vessels. So there's the one behind me, which is the one you swing it open, and you put a container underneath where all the spent grain goes into. So this is the mash tun. And then the vessel over here is the kettle, and the access manway on the platform is so you can climb inside of that and empty the hops out of it. And believe it or not, both myself and Lee fit into that. Not at the same time. Well, we probably would at the same time, but it wouldn't be much fun because it's a hot, sweaty vessel.
I don't know how limber we are now, but back in the day, you basically had to be a limber dancer to kind of bend in backwards. You had to go in it like that.
It was like, what was his dream? Me and Lee in that kettle at the same time. And the access hatch at the top is just random. Oh no, it's hop additions. I was going to say, because otherwise it was just like, you're never going to access the vessel from
hop additions, but we'd probably throw more lactose in there than we're throwing hops in.
So yeah, that's the vessels. If you ever come on a brewery tour, once we're allowed to do them again, we go into a lot of detail about how these different vessels work. And it is really interesting, and we'll hopefully be able to do a lot more interactive tours with this extra space we've got now in the
and we're exploring options for a multi-destination brewery tour, where you might be able to go and see our larger scale new production facility, then pop back here, see where it all began, and then maybe have some yuzu food.
Yeah, someone's just mentioned about the ginger. It leaves a lot of freshness. That's what makes me think of summer. You get that nice refreshing drink, but ginger taste afterwards, like ginger ale.
Yeah.
So yeah, a palate cleansing beer because we've got the big boy coming up later on. In the meantime, I've got a handful of questions. Would you like to have them?
Is it optional? Yeah. Oh, I think we need to ask that.
How did you source the Lingon berries and how are they to work with as an ingredient? From someone beering me on Instagram.
So,
Interesting.
Most of our fruits have to be sourced as either a pure or concentrate because they have to be aseptic, which means they have to be treated in a way that ensures there is absolutely no microbiological contamination. So, yeah, we couldn't just take fruit from Sainsbury's or wherever and just whack it in because it would have wild yeast and other contaminants on it. So it has to be treated in a particular way. So it is quite hard for us to work with raw fruits. It has to be these treated concentrates or purees.
But early doors, we tried different things, and one of the ones was we went to IKEA and got a lot of lingonberry concentrate.
The first time we worked with lingonberry,
those tiny little bottles, weren't they? They were 500ml bottles at a time, and we had to pour them all in one after a time. They were so labour intensive.
It took a long time to make those exploding cans.
Yeah, and then the lingonberry was super sugary, and it carried on fermenting. And we learnt a lot from that batch of beer, and in a good way. We learnt a lot about when to release a beer, how long to keep it in tank, and a few lessons learnt.
We learned a lot about QC, yes, definitely. Do you have an in-house yeast culture you always use? And that's from Steve. It's a good question, Steve. As it stands, no. So we've been brewing on this smaller scale, and we've been brewing so many different things, requiring so many different yeasts that it's not been feasible until this point. Now we're at the new site. We have been doing some trials. We have identified a strain that we want to work with, and in due course we will be working with that. It's a strain called London Ale 3. It's an English heritage style, so it can do anything from pale to dark, but it's also a style that's been adopted in the US for the production of New England style beers. So we think that versatility kind of fits really well with the profile of all the kind of diverse things that we like to do. So a yeast called London Ale 3 is about to become a house strain.
Sorry, Dave, I haven't got a question for you. I'm going to look on the screen. So, have you named your pet yeast? Yeah, like I have in my sourdough culture. That's from Bill 702260.
Not so far. So, while we wait for a few more questions to come in, I'm going to chat to you about. Apparently I'm not. Apparently I'm.
No, before you do, look at Alan Kendra. Glad the ABV is a bit lower. It totaled 44% last time.
Is that what it was?
Well, I don't know which session that was, but can you imagine when we do our birthday one? Whoop.
It was 220.
44%. No, we do 4 beers at a time. That would mean the average was 11. We can't have done 44% over 4 beers.
14 and 12.
Well, maybe us on screen we drank 44% worth of beer.
No, we did do a 12 and a 14 back to that though, didn't we? So that's like 26 in 2 beers. So, anyway, someone do the maths on that one, make sure we're right. But yeah, maybe we did do that.
So Ian Hayes just asked, when you can travel, what are your plans for collabs? Any teasers for us? So rewind the tape about 40 minutes when we said, oh yeah, we were in Denmark and we were next to Yeasty Boys and Lervig, and it'd be awesome to, and then we'll carry on with the rest of the conversation. One of those 2 breweries would be really cool to brew with, wouldn't it? Wherever they're based. Both of those breweries.
Well, let's just say if we happen to find ourselves in Norway, there are 2 people we could probably do a collab with. Right. Have you seen another brewery's beer and thought, I wish I'd thought of that? That's a good one.
Sort of, yes, and it was mentioned and referenced earlier. It wasn't that I wish I thought of that, but I was like, that sounds like us. The Goose Island cream egg.
Cream egg thing.
I was like, oh my god, that should have been us.
I think that's pretty much what I said.
Yeah, that's what
I'm only gutted because we didn't do it first.
Yeah, and I was quite pleased because if you guys, and hopefully quite a few of you guys also follow Real Ale Craft Beer, so last time Simon came to see us and he took some beers away with him, and he rang us and he was like, I couldn't get the cream egg beer, but I'm going to do something really cool, and I want to use one of your beers with it. And he said,
"You're going to put it in a blender or something."
Oh, you've not seen it? He's already done it. So he did it with, and he's like, I want to use your Imperial Stout, and we're like, oh, yeah, Imperial Ton Cocoa. He did Empress. He blended 2 cream eggs and put Empress in with it.
I so need that in my life.
And he basically said it was amazing, but it was chunky and weird. I'm going to do that same experiment, but I think I'm going to melt the chocolate. I'm going to ease it in. I'm going to make this like really. I just want to try this.
See, that reminds me of a pub.
Not me with Empress.
I mean, Andy will know about this pub not so far from here called the Lowther, and they always had these range of vodkas. And they basically just took vodka and like would blitz Skittles or a Snickers or like Crunchy or whatever into it, and you were able to. And some of them were awesome.
Imagine that Crunchy in a milk stout. That'd be amazing, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
I'd probably do that. That'd be nice. So I've got a pile of questions. Have you got one?
I've got one. Any ideas what you might have planned for LCBF? Is that LC or LI?
Yeah, London Craft Beer Festival.
London Craft Beer Festival. Right.
So what have we got planned for it? Yeah, if you came to see us when we were at London Craft Beer Festival a few years back when we were allowed to open, we had a really cool vault where there was a lot of people crammed into a tiny space. So we're thinking with COVID and everything that we'll do the same again. It's really difficult to say.
Our own personal super spreader event.
We've got some amazing beers saved for any events we're going to do this year. We're going to do LCBF on a big scale. We don't know how it'll work because we know they've got a lot more space coming around this year. So I think everyone's going to be spread out a bit more. I don't know.
Hopefully the slushy machine will make a reappearance.
100%. Yeah. We can't go down there without bringing the freeze. But yeah, no, we're going to be there. We're going to do it as best as we can in whatever scenarios we can do it in. It's going to be really exciting.
I hope we'll have Simon Lemon with us at that time.
Well, that leads me on to this one then. Do you think an Imperial Simon Lemon would work? Hell yeah! Simon Lemon is big-headed to say because it's our beer. It's one of my favourite beers. It's amazing. 2.8%, super sessionable, easy beer. No, 3.5 Simon Lemon.
Was it?
Yeah, you're thinking of that lemon.
Yeah.
But yeah, Imperial Simon Lemon. Even an Imperial Simon Lemon's only going to be about 6%, but it'd be awesome. Can you imagine a 8% Simon Lemon?
And
7.5.
Wait for the next beer when we will tell you why they call stronger beers Imperial beers. We're about to reveal that secret.
So another question, the live tastings have been awesome and sipping a beer is so much more satisfying when it's being discussed. And the plans to continue the monthly tastings for the foreseeable future. Hopefully one day I can escape South Wales and come to a live tasting session in Gareth.
Absolutely, yeah. Do you know, I think we kind of got to the point where even if you weren't watching, we'd do this. We kind of enjoy that.
We love doing it as well. It's a nice break for us. We have an amazing job. We work in an industry that's awesome. We get to brew beer for a living. We get to drink beer for a living. But one of the most satisfying things is enjoying it with other people. And that's been completely cut out of our life for the last 12 months, where we used to go to the tap room or beer festivals and events and just talk to you guys and interact with how you like our beers or what you think. And this has been an amazing replacement for what we've lacked. And don't get me wrong, it's not the same. And we want to do it again with you guys in a live audience while we're streaming to more people so that a lot more people can get involved in it. But this has been so good for us as well as you guys, because this is something I look forward to every month, where we can actually we're allowed to work and have a beer, and it's.
I was thinking about this earlier today. I was thinking, well, what we do is probably a great release for you guys, but in every much the same way, it's a great release for us because we're still doing the working week and we're encountering those stresses, and we, like you, can't go to the pub at the end of it. So Wayne and I greatly look forward to this time when we can just kick back, have a few beers, chat to you guys, answer your questions. I almost did the first F on there. I don't know the first.
It's really good for us because everyone's in a difficult position. We're in a stressful position where we're running a business and during COVID, which is stressful enough, but we're trying to expand the business, open a brand new brewery at the same time, and it certainly hasn't been the last few months certainly haven't been smooth, but things are going really well. But it's just normally we get the chance to just at least have a couple of beers, whereas we didn't have that chance. So this is really great for us to come and talk to you guys, hear that you enjoy the beers or you don't enjoy them, but it's really good to get that feedback, and then we interact a little bit. So it's very, very good for us as well as you guys. So we're definitely going to keep this going, and hopefully we'll be much more interactive. We've got lots and lots of events planned for this year, events we're hosting, events we're attending. And we're always looking at that now and saying, oh God, that falls on a YouTube live session. So we're going to do a live session at London Craft Beer Festival or whatever the festival is. And we're working out how we can make that work. And then people can interact with us at the session as well as people on YouTube. So
we're definitely going to carry it on. It's probably going to be the same time-ish every month. I think if we can take it on the road and broadcast live from events and things like that, and certainly if we can take it on the road to broadcast from some of our bars, then we've got to be doing that.
Yeah, 100%. I've already asked that one about the sauce in Lingon Brewery.
So that when Lee speaks to the guys at Tiny Rebel, can he ask them to provide him with some mint chopped chip Stay Puft and see if he'll change his mind on a mint stout? I guess I previously said I don't like mint chopped stouts. Is that it? I did. Okay. I've been told I did. I guess I've just not had the right one yet.
This is a good one from Peter. How do you arrange your collabs? Do you approach them or do they approach you?
Sometimes it's one, sometimes it's the other. Sometimes it's something else entirely. So one of the breweries we're working with for our birthday beers, which Wayne will be revealing later on, came about because it's another European brewery and they were looking to import into the UK, and their importer approached us and said, would you be interested in working with this particular brewery?
Yeah, the best ones genuinely are the mutual adoration for each other, where you say, oh my God, I love you. Well, you kind of do say that, especially when you've had a beer at a beer fest. Well, I love your beers, blah blah blah, and they're like, well, I love your beers, and you're like, oh God, I've got to do something. And one of the cool ones we had, which unfortunately didn't come to pass, but fingers crossed it might come to pass over what's been broken the last couple of days, is Tonkoko. So Tonkoko it wasn't massively, it was, the biggest inspiration for that was Tonka from Hawkshead. And we've done obviously lots of iterations since then, we've done lots of different things since then, and Hawkshead carried on doing Tonka-based beers. And we've met Matt plenty of times at different events, and Matt was the former head brewer at Hawkshead, and we were just like, we've got to brew a collab where it's got to be Tonka based. We're going to do something super fucking awesome. Oh, I did the F-bomb.
No. So Matt and I remember at Magic Rock a few years ago, we were starting to work on a Tonka based sour idea. I think it would have worked quite well.
And then unfortunately, at the start of COVID, Hawkshead changed their structure, and a lot of the amazing staff who'd worked there from day one will let go. And I don't know the ins and outs of it, and I'm not going to comment on that. But one of the awesome things that's just happened, that have been announced in the last week or two, is that there's a new brewery just been formed, and that
Lakes Brew Co.
Yeah. So and Matt and Michelle from Hawkshead, and as well as two of the other team, I can't think of their names off the top of my head, have started the business, and there's a new brewery in the Lake District, founded by the Hawkshead team. I'm sure they're going to do amazing things, and I'm not sure, I hope we can do the Tonka-based collab beer that we'd always planned on doing.
The beer that was always meant to be. Yeah.
Cool. Kerry's spot on there. Wayne probably needs a pee, it's been a while. I'm just like waiting for Lee to go to the next section, which is subs boxes.
Right, okay. You've probably got enough
and
time.
On that note.
So, at this point we always like to talk about what you're going to see in the next box. So, what you're going to be getting next time is, of course, another amazing box coming. So, the first beer you're going to be getting, actually, I'm not going to reveal all the beers. I'm going to tell you the YouTube four. The four we'll be doing in this tasting next time. So the first one is a beer we're going to be calling Raspberry Pie. So you'll see what the inspiration for that one is. And what that is going to be a vegan oat milk pale flavoured with raspberries. So we're trying to do what we've done before with lactose as a pale, and we're going to try and do it with oat milk this time, and we're going to be doing it with raspberry and vanilla. So I reckon that's going to be awesome. The next one up is one of the first beers coming off our new kit up the road at Hanley. Has been a collab with some of the new hype boys in town called Drop Project. So with them we've also collaborated with a New Zealand hop collective called Hop Revolution, and we've brewed a Nelson and Motuaka dipper coming in at 7.5%. So that'll be the second beer. We'll be then be following that up with a nice palate cleanser called Albus Crumbledore. I love that name. I wish I'd come up with that one. I think that one was Wayne, wasn't it? I think that was Wayne that came up with that one. So Albus Crumbledore, where I think we're combining, if you sum up the malts and the fruit, it comes to 20. I think we're looking at 9 different fruits and 11 different types of barley or malted cereals in this particular beer. So quite possibly going to be the most insane pastry sour we've done yet. And then to conclude that one, we're going to have a nice little dessert of a chocolate story, which is a beer that we first brewed last year with York's Chocolate Story, the tourist
hence the name.
Hence the name. But also it was brewed with the guys who organised the local chocolate festival, because it was brewed ready for the chocolate festival that didn't happen because of lockdown. But we thought the beer was so great, we brought it back once again, and that will be your dessert next time round. Also in the box, we're hoping will be brownie pints or something else similar, which is another big favourite of you guys.
Fingers crossed. So I got an interesting question here. What is the difference between a standard lager and IPL? And would you be more inclined to brew an IPL?
We would, yes.
100%. So these shooting off now. So standard lager, the name lager comes from the time it spends in tank. It's lagered. It spends a long time in the fermenter, typically up to 3 months. We are going to lager our beer as well as we can, and we're going to try and do the same thing with our new lagers at the new site. But in the past, we've always had to keep it to about 6 weeks, because even 6 weeks is 3 times as long as we'd normally keep a beer in tank. So it's not a very cost-effective way to make a beer, but if you do it right, you can really taste it. So that's your lager. An IPL is a India, well, I don't know what the P stands for, pale lager. But basically it's a super hot lager. So you basically lager a beer, so you keep it in tank for a long time, and you dry hop it like you would with an IPA. I personally love this style of beer because it's really easy drinking. It's a refreshing beer in summer, but it's got the hoppy hit and the bitterness and the other aspects of beer that I love. Yeah, it's definitely the type of beer that I'd really like to do, but we'd still need a lager as well. So maybe when we do our next lager, we do something similar. We lager it for 2 months, and then we split the batch and we hop some of it, and then we have the IPL, and then we don't hop some of it and we have the pure lager as the other batch. That might be quite a good best of both worlds, where we kind of please both markets of someone who likes the lager. On collabs, is it only one brewery that sell the beer? I've seen your Vocation collab on their site, but not on yours. That's from Alan. It really depends. The Vocation thing was very much driven by the supermarkets. So the supermarkets asked Vocation to find some breweries to do a collab with, and we were one of them. And it's really difficult. Why would... Well, I'll say it as is. Why would we buy a beer off a brewery to sell on our website when you can go to the supermarket and buy that beer? We aren't going to be able to sell that beer at the same price the supermarkets can, so you won't buy it off us. So we'd end up with lots of beer sat around.
Is this the Vocation collab?
Yeah. So the question was, on collabs, is only one brewery that sell the beer? I've seen your Vocation collab on their site, but not on yours.
Yeah, so that's funny because brother-in-law contacted me in the last week to congratulate me on that beer and asking me why he couldn't buy it from our website.
And because, that's the reason, because unfortunately once we've bought it off another brewery at the price that they'll sell it at, we wouldn't be able to sell it for the same price as the supermarket can, because we're only buying a few cases at a time, whereas the supermarket's buying 1,000 pallets, 1,000 cases at a time off them. So they're getting an amazing price, and supermarkets can afford to sell for very minimum margin. So they will be able to sell that beer at a much more competitive price than we could. So we won't. Whereas we can brew a beer, and we do. So Juice Foresight, for example, we can brew a beer that we can sell to a supermarket, because they're going to buy off us in big quantities, and they can then sell it at a reasonable price, and we can still sell on our website at a competitive price. But that's because we make it. So that's the real reason. If a normal collab that's not brewed for a supermarket, then it's about the discussion at the time when we work out how many we're going to buy off the brewery we work with, or vice versa. When they brew with us, we'll ask them if they want to buy some. But there's no pressure to do that. We've brewed some with breweries where they take half of the batch off you. We've brewed some with other breweries who didn't take any. And then we've brewed away collabs where we've wanted beer and they've already sold it. They couldn't sell us any beer. That's unfortunately the way it works.
Too much fun. So I have a 3-word question: Imperial Chili Stout ? And that's
if only you had one on the
so Gareth, we are going to be revealing a little bit more about our birthday box set, which will be coming soon.
Probably a good time for another beer, isn't it?
I think we've already announced they're all going to be stouts. Yeah. Later on, we'll be telling you who all of those stouts are going to be produced with. And we're not revealing the styles, but I will tell you, Gareth, I don't think you'll be disappointed.
I'd like to say we took our drink out of the fridge and warmed it up. We did take it out of the fridge, but it's like a fridge in here anyways. I can't imagine it being much warmer.
We took it out of 4 degrees and we stored it at 6 degrees. It wasn't in the fridge to start with. Right.
It's certainly could have done with leaving the kettle on maybe behind us to generate some more. I was supposed to say warmth, but it sounded like I said warmth, which wasn't about
warmth, like
Star Trek.
Klingon, Next Generation.
What is it?
This is quite appropriate when we're about to go into sci-fi.
Well, exactly. Babylon. What did you call it?
Babylon
Galactica.
So this time it's DRADIS. It is inspired by my love of Battlestar Galactica. I will remember the name this time, even if I can't pronounce it.
Battlestar Wars,
Galactica, Babylon, whatever. So it's actually there's 5 series of that, and I just watched the whole of it again recently. That's how much I love that particular show. It was originally a series in the 1970s. It was a very short-lived show. I don't think there was many episodes of it, but the concept was cool, and it got brought back in the 2000s and survived for 5 series. And within the show, they have something called a DRADIS monitor, radar. It's like a radar thing. It detects the alien things on the screen. And if they encounter one of these alien things, it's called a DRADIS contact. So this is almost called DRADIS contact. We decided to call it DRADIS in the end. And what we have here is an Imperial Russian stout. So it's a stout that we've made with 10 different types of cereal grain. I think it's pretty much the most we've ever put into a stout. And it's called a Russian Imperial Stout.
Because we're Russian to get it out.
Because we were Russian.
That jokes.
I'm here all week. Check your words. So it's called a Russian Imperial Stout because the original concept of this beer came from London. And in the era of Catherine II of Russia, she would have this beer imported, or this style of beer imported from London to her court. So this Queen of Russia had a particular love for incredibly strong dark beer. So strong dark beer then became known as imperial beer because it was for the imperial court of Russia. And from these origins, all beers that then sprouted stronger versions became known as imperial versions. So they were like destined for the kings, they were destined for the queens. And over time we've seen things migrate from being called imperial versions to doubles and triples and quads. And the doubles and triples and quads actually have a certain amount of science, some rules behind them in terms of what ingredients, what strength targets you should be going for. But in the area of the imperial, it just meant a strong version of something else that you'd done before. So
on that note, you can have a drink of it.
I can.
So this is a super unique beer for us because there's no adjuncts. This is a pure imperial stout, and that's taking us back to our first year of brewing when we brought out some really cool imperial stouts that had no adjuncts. And it's really nice to do that every now and then. Don't get me wrong, I am a proper sweet tooth fiend, so anything with lactose and imperial marshmallow type flavours is my cup of tea. This is exactly what I go for, but this is really, really cool. It's just nice to have that 12%. So you've got the strength, you've got the flavour, but you can really taste all the malts because there's nothing else coming into play. Apart from the marshmallow head that I poured from...
Someone said you want a flake.
I know, I do want a flake with it. I've got such a sweet tooth. Yeah, I was like, well, please, yeah.
Be a professional right here.
How are you going to get it? I did pour it that way for a reason, because what I was trying to do was warm it up and get rid of some of the carbonation at the same time. But there's no warmth going to come into it.
Yeah, we'll believe it.
Seems to be the first time Wayne has ever poured a drink. Oh, you mean as in the result of what I did? But look, I also poured Lee's, which was perfect. I don't mind pouring mine funny to get it how I want to taste it. But yeah, 12% does not taste 12% at all.
And I first drank this maybe 2 weeks ago, and I was a little bit disappointed. I think I was drinking it a little bit young. 2 weeks on, with any of these dark beers, the bigger they are, the longer it takes them to kind of mature and refine and develop. And I think just the 2 weeks since I last drank this, it's actually moved on quite a bit.
Kerry said, I wish Pete and I didn't have to share, and Pete said, me too. You don't. It's just whoever's got the can in their hand needs to be selfish here. Really cool imperial stout. Believe it or not, one of my favourite Russian imperial stouts. I had.
Say the Black Sheep?
Sure am.
Yeah.
So Black Sheep did a Russian imperial stout, and it was the only beer they did in a tiny bottle. It was a 330ml bottle, because obviously, if you're drinking strong beer, it has to be tiny measures, but we're not that sophisticated. 440ml because you're going to share it with somebody, not drink it in small measures.
My only regret, I think, with this one is I think it could be a little bit thicker and syrupier for a 12. And now we've got the new site, one thing we're able to do is when you're normally boiling your beer in a kettle like this thing behind us here, you only boil it for about an hour. But if you're trying to make something big and syrupy like this, if your equipment allows you to, you can boil it for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours.
We could do some
we couldn't do that here because we had to run a condenser, and we would have wasted loads of water. In fact, we'd have run out of water. But up the road, we do have the capability to boil and boil and boil, and just really reduce that beer down to create something that is thicker in body, which I think when we're doing some of these big dark styles going forward, we need to do.
I think we're obviously still drinking at a very cold temperature. I'd love to try this on cask. That'd be amazing.
You want to have this on 12% on cask?
Yeah. A pint, please. Sorry. Instead of a pint, no. I'll have 440 mils. I can't manage a pint.
I'll be stood there at the bar with you, and know for a fact Ant would be right alongside us.
I'll be on his second pint already.
I don't think it'll be a very big queue though.
Yeah. That's the joys of cask beer. It doesn't taste like shrimp either. So I really love this beer. I can't imagine me drinking loads of it because of the strength, but I'd like to. So with limited beers such as Barrel Aged Mockerman, did you consider making the cans 330 so more got a chance to purchase and try? From Alan. That's a really good question. We didn't, but we maybe should.
What's it about making more 330?
Do 330s of the bourbon barrel aged stuff so that more people get a chance to try it. I mean, we've had all the designs worked up for 440s, but we can work around that.
It's a fair shout. I mean, I think an even fairer shout would be if you're doing these limited, prestigious releases, why wouldn't we look to do glass? Why wouldn't we look to do wax seals? So, yeah, we will continue to consider these things, but we have to work within our existing capabilities.
Yeah, I mean, one of the cool things about the site we're sat in now is, well, not the cool things that we can do and we want to do is we want a bottling line for this site. So this is going to be bourbon, barrel-aged sours, really unique beers. So once we start doing funky sour beers, we can't contaminate the lines. We can't send those funky beers to our new brewery site and potentially contaminate our canning line. So they need to be packaged here. If we're going to package here and it's going to be small runs of interesting stuff, then bottle probably suits it better. So a really cool bottling line here for our sours and our barrel-aged beers. And then all of a sudden, we are doing 330s or different size beers for these imperials. So it's definitely something we'll consider going forwards. But at the moment, we can't afford to have multiple lines, but we will in the future have that be in that position.
Yeah, definitely would like to. So I think this one's definitely directed at me. One. Can we expect a Slipknot themed beer? And that's from Tom.
I don't even know what Slipknot is. I think it's the hipster haircut that guys have, isn't it? Where they tie it up and the shaver on the sides. It's like the modern undercut.
You probably think it's a fashion label because I wear so much of this Slipknot stuff. To be honest, Tom, I'm kind of amazed we haven't done this yet. I think we've done like Korn, we've done Pantera, we've done Funkin' Nancy, we've done Rage Against the Machine. How have we not done Slipknot yet?
As long as we can.
I guess that one's on me. So yes, I think the answer has to be yes. I cannot tell you when though.
As soon as we release the Cotton Eye Joe themed beer, then we can do the Slipknot one.
What? Okay.
Everyone knows who Cotton Eye Joe are. They brought out those amazing. Oh no, sorry, it's the Rednecks. Rednecks is the band.
Cotton Eye Joe was the song.
And then Old Poppin' and Oak. Old Poppin' and Oak is What's favourite, which is what we like to play.
Which is when they basically did the same song again with slightly different lyrics. Yeah, I remember that one.
Classic.
From Peter, any plans for a Weiss beer? We get asked this question surprisingly often, don't we? So Weiss beer, wheat beer, that little bit of haze, your Hoegaarden style beer. We have done a couple of times in our history. I don't think we executed it as best we could. And that aside anyway, they didn't sell particularly well for us. When we've kind of set about being an American brewery based about American hops, although we've stepped away from that a little bit with our daft stouts and sours, a Weiss beer is not I think what people expect of us.
No, we have done wheat beers and Weiss in the past, and they've been good, not been great to be honest, because it's not our thing. But at the same time, when that guy told me, we were walking down Fossgate Festival, and a guy came.
I know who you mean.
Some random guy was drinking beer, and he decided to go out of his way to ask somebody who was serving our beer if we were in the vicinity. And bear in mind there was like hundreds of people. And they pointed us out, and this guy came and found us and basically, oh, I'm drinking your what's it called, raspberry. Drinking your raspberry now. It's literally the worst beer I've ever had in my life. Cheers, mate. Thanks for coming out of your way to find me to tell me that. Was that brilliant? And he's
to which my response was, I'll be at the bar, Wayne. You need to handle this one.
I was like, well, what do you normally drink? He's like, oh, I drink Meantime raspberry wheat beer, and this is like a really crap version of it. I was like, that's nice. Well, thanks for your feedback. I'll make sure that when we brew it again,
you do diplomacy so much better than it was just better that I walked away.
I was just I was just gobsmacked that someone had hated it that much that they wanted to come and find me in the crowded of busy
on a Sunday.
And I wasn't even working either.
No, it was a rare day off for us at a Sunday at a local festival, and then John seeks us out and like, yeah, this guy really wants to talk to you about your beer. And then this guy goes, yeah, I just wanted to tell you, it's like the shittest thing I've ever drunk.
Oh well, it's everyone's got an opinion.
Anyway,
but and I accept that not everything we brew suits everyone's taste, and it is fine. It is what it is. So it was just funny. I really enjoyed it because I was just gobsmacked that someone, if I have something I don't like, I'm like, oh, don't like that. Done.
It is interesting when you see it quite a bit in this community where, for me, if I don't like something, it's like vote with your mouth, vote with your feet. I don't like it, I don't buy it.
Yeah.
I don't feel the need to go out and tell everyone. Can I just tell you how much I really, really didn't like this thing that you probably don't care about?
0.5 and Untapped, and then okay, fine. That's your opinion.
Next one we can answer very easily. So, have you put any DRADIS into barrels? That's from Michael. Michael, yes, we have.
Our former cold store behind our head now is where we used to store all our cask beer. We used to have a lot of cask beer in there. We now have 0 cask beer in there, and we will have some shortly when we put these beers behind us into cask. But we're hoping they're going to turn around quickly because that is now a barrel store, and we have lots and lots of really cool barrels starting to age in there.
Yeah, the birthday beers that we're shortly going to give you hints about, there are 5 of them, and for each of those we're doing 6 barrels. So that 30 wooden barrels we're going to have holding those beers for probably the best part of the next year.
This is a really good one actually from Peter. Do you find it funny you started the brewery wanting to do hop forward beers but have become the go-to brewery for impy stouts? The reason I say it's funny is because I have always drank stouts in very small quantities and not very often, but now it's very much one of my go-to beers. I never used to even consider them, but that's kind of, I guess, as we've evolved, the brewery has as well at the same time. Or we've evolved because the brewery's evolved. Who knows?
Well, I mean, I've always enjoyed the stouts, and I think there has to be an element of playing to your strengths. So, before we have...
Do the water profile thing while I go to the toilet again.
Well, that'll buy you about 5 minutes. So before we had the advancement of what we have up the road where we can manipulate our water, all you can really do is play to the strengths of the water that you have. And the water in York is hard, it's high in carbonates, high in alkalinity. It is very, very suitable for the production of dark beers. It, by the same token, is not particularly suitable to the production of pale beers. So I think that said, we have done some great pale beers in our time, but that is within that restriction. So now we have the site up the road. We've invested in, the temptation is to call it a water filtration unit, but it's not a water filtration unit. It does some fancy science stuff that rips out all the minerals and leaves you with this base water that has almost no mineral content whatsoever. And then you can build it up to create whatever style you want to do. And for really good pale beers, what you're looking for is a little bit of sulphur and a reasonable amount of chloride. So we can now do that up the road. So we will finally be able to create the hoppy beers that we always aspired to create. But your question really was about why we ended up doing the stouts. It's because, well, I love them, and we did some, and it works really well with our water, and then consequently they ended up awesome and they sold well. And then as a business person you have to say, well, that sold well, why don't we do that again? And then over time we've kind of accelerated the production around stouts, and I would like to hope we are now seen as one of the UK's best producers of stouts, because we've had the luxury of time to experiment and develop our craft, and because we have water that is incredibly appropriate to the production of these types of styles. But we've always wanted to be that broad waterfront brewery. Hence we do the sours, we do the pales, we do the stouts. And now we have the access to this technology up the road, we will do the broad waterfront, we will do it even wider, and we will do it even better.
100%. The pale thing is something that we always talk about. We think our pale cask beer is brilliant. I think it's definitely up there with some amazing cask breweries out there. I think our pale kegged beer is good. It's not as good as some of these amazing breweries out there who focus on the pale beers.
Yeah, we're not going to challenge Verdant or Daya where we were. But I think with what we're now about to do, I think we can enter their league in terms of the quality of pale beer we can do.
Yeah, we've basically reset the playing field, haven't we? We've taken our water, we've stripped it back, and we can do anything we want with it. So, yeah, it's going to be really interesting the next 6 months, what the type of beers we're going to produce up there. The first of which, the Drop Project collab, is going to be pretty immense. So they're a very well-renowned pale hoppy brewery based on their water profile in London. They do some amazing things. So we've worked with them and we've come up with a really cool recipe, really cool beer, and we've used the reverse osmosis kit that we've got in our new brewery to do something really interesting. So let's see what people think of that when it comes out.
Absolutely. Next question I have is, I loved Heidi Plum. Any plans to rebrew for the summer? And that's from Penny. So we don't have any plans.
That was a collab with Docs.
Yeah, we don't have any plans to brew that direct beer, but what we tried to do with that style is, one of my particular inspirations is a brewery in New York State called Hudson Valley, and they brew sour IPAs where you're combining fruit and hops and spices and trying to create this balance, and that's what we attempted to do with Heidi Plum. I'm glad you liked it. I think we didn't quite get that bang on. I think we could have done a little bit better. So we will continue to work in that kind of way, but not necessarily redo that particular beer.
DRADIS is nuts. I can definitely feel the Imperial Russian Stout coming on now. It's all about the malts, isn't it? It's so complex. It's chewy, caramelly, all those interesting flavours coming through. But yeah, it's 12%. I'm definitely enjoying that, but can't imagine me drinking many more of them tonight.
I could quite like another one actually.
So one of the things that we wanted to do was talk about some of the beers that are coming soon. So we've got still got time for lots of questions from you guys, and we'll happily hang on for a little bit once we've got through the what we hope you guys will find interesting. So coming soon, beers.
Are you looking at me because I'm doing the next?
No, I just mentioned it because I just mentioned one of them. So the collab we did with Drop Project, we brewed a week ago now. It's called the Consultant. It's a 7.5% double IPA. It's got New Zealand hops, Nelson Motuaka. It's going to be pretty effing awesome. Can't wait to try that one. We've also got, Lee's already mentioned it once already tonight, Alva's Crumbledore, my name. So I get another case of beer. So 6%, all of the fruits.
Well, who gets the next case of beer?
Yourself.
Nadia behind the camera over there for Ground Hop Day.
So Ground Hop Day, 4.9%. This is your Lupu Lion style, our new favourite, going back to the original West Coast inspiration. So it's a APA, 4.9%.
We're calling it an any day APA because the idea of the Ground Hop Days is to reflect these lockdown times where all the days blur into one and you don't know quite where you are and shit doesn't even matter. But
that's the way we feel. So Lee's also mentioned Raspberry Pi earlier. So did you mention it was vegan friendly?
I did, yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, it's a vegan friendly ice cream IPA, pale ale, whichever at that strength, probably pale ale. And then we've got our birthday beers. So yeah, we're almost 5.
Which I suggested in writing those notes that we should only declare the breweries. I think we should also declare the strengths.
Yeah, 100%. So 100%. Yeah, that's the strength. Pretty much, if you add them all up. So 5 beers for the 5th birthday. Brewery number 1.
So let's see if we can do it in order. See if 11. Right, we're going to.
We'll tell you this before we tell anything else. So the beers are 11%, 12%, 13%, 14%, and 15%. 5 beers. All of the sessionable flavours.
Yeah. And at 11% we have Amundsen.
So the one of our favourite breweries from Norway. We brewed with them 18 months ago, 2 years ago now.
Espresso Patronum.
And yeah, Jeff is responsible for making me drunk at lots of festivals, and it's definitely his fault, not mine. And then we went on to ABV 12%.
Which I think is the Napa beer one.
So Napa beer from Spain.
From near Barcelona, are they? Catalonia. Yeah, Catalonian, Spain.
So we were lined up to brew for our 4th birthday with these guys, and then the lockdown restrictions kicked in and we couldn't do it, so we deferred it to our 5th birthday. So 12% beer with these guys is going to be pretty epic. We can't tell you what the different flavours are, but every single one of these are pretty unique.
Yeah, I know, you need to wait for that. 12% is probably our best friends in beer, which is
13%.
13? Sorry, we've already done 12. So next one around 13%. Our best friends in beer, who are?
Fierce. So we've got these guys been down. We brewed the beer already. It's going to be pretty cool. We've got some hot stuff to tell you about that there.
At 14% is the collab we promised. At long last, we can bring you a collab with Tiny Rebel.
Yeah, that's the 14%, and the 15% beer is with one of the top 10 breweries in the world right now.
Yeah, so when they debuted on the Untapped charts, they were the UK's best brewery and the 3rd best brewery in the world. I believe they have slipped a little bit from there to only just be inside the world's top 10. I mean, fuck, life's hard.
F-bomb.
So it's a brewery called Emperors. It's a guy called Damien. It's a guy who...
he unfortunately slipped to number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sixth best brewery in the world at the moment.
6th best brewery in the world. Oh my god, times are hard. And he is known for doing stupid stouts. So can you imagine why we might want to work with him?
Yeah, so we've been aware of Damien and these Emperor's beers for a while now, and Roddy, one of our senior brewers, has a great relationship with him, and he was like, well, we want to do something really cool. Do you want to work with us? Hell yeah. So it's going to be pretty epic. And that one, we haven't really finished it yet, but in tank it's tasting immense.
We've created a base beer, we've done the stout bit, and then we have things that we're going to do with that. And we're like, should we even do that? Because the base beer just tastes epic.
This is the pre-dry hop beer, and it tastes so good that do you want to dry hop it? But we've got to.
Yeah.
What was the 50% brewery collab name? Didn't hear it properly from Laura Limey.
Emperor's
Brewery.
Yeah. So they aren't very well known of, but trust me, they will get a big name going forward.
Oh, so this is a really, really, really cool, good question. So these aren't going to be rare, these beers. We are going to have enough to go around, but one of the things, they are super strong beers. They're going to be super, unfortunately, well, not going to be super expensive, but they aren't going to be your cheapest beers we make. But what we are going to do is every one of you guys who has a Brew York subscription are going to get a discounted price on these beers, and you'll have first chance to get them before anyone else does. So we will ping you guys the details of how it works a little bit closer to time. They won't be part of your subscriber club, but they will be a benefit in there for you guys to get it before anyone else and cheaper than anyone else.
And we're looking at options and how we can do a exclusive tasting, but looking at the strength of them, we're kind of thinking, how can we do that? So we're thinking maybe we do like video releases that you could like log into.
100%. What I want to do is us just literally sit there and have a pint of each. 5 pints of strengths, not maybe on a Friday, but and then we progressively, like that slow, what was it, that fast, is it fast show? Very, very drunk.
And I was very, very drunk.
You just progressively slow your words until people can't hear anything. Isn't that what we do now anyway?
With my reputation.
So we're going to do something really cool with the taste of those beers, but it's not going to be part of the official monthly tasting. We're going to do something in addition to this, because those 5 beers on one session would be crazy.
Yeah, we haven't quite like dotted the I's and crossed the T's on that. There will be something, and you'll hear about it in due course. Right, on to this next one. So as a lover of stouts, especially Tom Coco, but someone who has recently transitioned to being vegan, do you plan to make Tonk Oak Co part of your core range so I can enjoy stouts again without the moral guilt? And that's from Nathan Berry. It's a very good question, Nathan, and it's a beer that has gained great popularity, and we do as a brewery aspire to be ever more inclusive. So I don't know if that particular beer will necessarily become core range, but we will make more beers that are inclusive that you can enjoy guilt-free.
And I wouldn't rule it out, because what we had is Tonka Oak Co. We brewed on the kit behind us, and it involved us emptying 1 litre oat milk cartons, one at a time, into the kettle, which is ridiculous. It's so bad for the environment because every single one's in a cart and all the rest of it. And we spoke to as many dairy companies as we could to find out where we can get this in bulk. We just couldn't do it. And then once we developed the recipe for raspberry pie, we found an awesome company in Lancashire who basically will allow us to travel up there with our beer transport tank, fill it with oat milk and bring it back and put it straight into our new bigger brewery. That is such a game changer. So all of a sudden, these vegan-friendly milk stouts that we were doing before, we were experimenting and we wanted to do. Now we can do them, and we're doing them to a scale where it's actually viable. We can make these things, and we can do them safe. We can do about pouring 400 or dropping 400 cartons down into a landfill. So it's really, really good, and we're really pleased with what we've learned from this new beer. And I would love to have Tonkoko as a core beer, because Imperial Tonkoko is one of my favourite beers we make, and that's a really, really good version.
It was our first foray into attempting to do that big-bodied, creamy stout without the use of lactose. And considering it was our first attempt, I think we smashed it. I think it was a really great beer. Yeah. So I would like to see us do more of that kind of thing.
So we got one from Bill 70226.
Sorry, if I can, before you go into that one, I'm supposed to follow this up with a shout out. So plus, can I get a shout out to Karen and David Berry? They will be enjoying my subs beers for me as I have to work. Happy Mother's Day and happy birthday, Dad. Enjoy the beers.
Oh, brilliant.
And that was from Nathan Berry to Mum and Dad.
That's an awesome present. I'd take that. An evening with me and Lee. What a present.
I'm guessing he doesn't love you that much, but sorry, guys.
So the one I was going to shout out, well, not shout out, but mention was the Bill 702260. When is your birthday? We can't tell you that until our beers are ready. It's early April.
Is it like Easter where you can just
change the date? Exactly. Our birthday is exactly like Easter because it falls in April, and we'll change it every year if we want to. But it's early April, and as soon as our birthday beers are ready, we will confirm what date that is. Sorry.
Have we got any more of this?
We've got a little bit of not delays, but we've got bits and pieces we're trying to sort out when we don't want to confirm the dates of the beer releases until we're ready.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions?
I've got a few. Tony, and this isn't Tony, our sales director. I effing hope it isn't. Any more black IPAs in the pipeline? So black IPAs are kind of like West Coast IPAs in a way.
I've been educated by you.
I taught Lee how to pour a beer. So black IPAs are something that we all love. Genuinely, we all drink and love them. Everyone tells us they love them, but nobody buys them, and it's so annoying as a brewer when we brew a batch of black IPA and then everyone's this is brilliant, and no one's buying it. So
like one of the things I love to drink is, I'm only going to single out that style, but if I could do it in a broader category of darker, maltier beers that have hop character. So brown ales, India stouts, black IPAs. I love all of those styles, and they've almost all fallen out of favour. Every time we've tried to brew one, I think we've made a nice one, but nobody buys them.
And this is like the you're obviously doing it wrong, but I don't think we are doing it wrong. I think the feedback we get from brewers and from the public alike is, oh my God, I love that beer. but nobody buys it. The public just don't buy them. So it then makes us think, well, let's just not brew because we can't sit around on beers.
One of my favourite all-time beers that we've ever made is Kiwi.
Yeah, it's great.
A New Zealand hop brown ale, which I can drink that pint after pint. I love the fact that it's got a really nice malty backbone with some really good fruity hop character on top of it. But I can't make it anymore because not enough people buy it. So can you hear the distress in my voice?
Get the pilot kit out, and get the original OG pilot kit, the 26 litre one out, and then let's brew it on tiny scale.
Well, maybe now we're moving on to big scale, and maybe I can come back here and I can brew it here.
Yeah, that's the other cool thing about this space is that we can give the brewers some real cool creative input. We're not asking you to do a 1 barrel batch, we're asking you to do a 10 barrel batch. We are going to sell it and it's going to go into our tap rooms, predominantly our own venues, but this is your chance to do something really effing cool.
You've been quite profane this week.
I like to say the F word.
Apparently.
Fuggles! Your favourite F word.
Yeah, the reason Wayne has said that is Fuggles, for those of you that don't know, is an English hop that I detest.
So one of the things that, when I was talking about the different beers earlier, we got to a raspberry pie and then we kind of got to a stop. We mentioned the birthday beers, but returning soon,
yes,
we've got some really cool beers.
Literally
next week, we've got some really cool returning beers.
So I think one of our highest rated beers of all time, Extra Brownie Pints, is back next week. I think if you were to look on the Untapped charts at the Imperial Milk Stouts, you'd see it's like about 2 or 3 in the country. We're also bringing back Racow Welsh, which was New Zealand hop dipper.
I love that beer. That was really, really cool.
I had a little sip of that earlier. It's good.
We didn't talk too much about it, and at the time, and then I had a few cans in my fridge, and they were higher ABV, but they were so enjoyable, they were so smooth. You couldn't taste it. They're
really smooth now.
Yeah, I can't wait to have that again.
And then we've kept shunting this back on the calendar up the road. Viva la Guavolution is back at last.
This is guava in any beer is one of my favourite ingredients. It's so expensive, but it's so good. And if you get the balance right, a guava-based beer is amazing.
Do you know what? We've been lucky because apparently there's been some guava supply issues. And only because we buy about 800 kilos at a time have we been able to source it right now. I've had 2 other breweries contact me and say, what are you doing for guava right now? I can't get it.
Well, we've got our next state of mind as well. And this is one which is going to be a little bit controversial, and I'm sorry guys if you're watching, but I don't think we can put this one in our subscription box because there's just not going to be enough. So we now have more subscribers than we have barrels of beer for this beer, and it's not because we've got hundreds and hundreds of subscribers. We have a very good healthy number, but this was a very, very short run batch of beer. So this next beer is only going to be available on the web store. So we'll apologise in advance, but we will do something for you. For anyone who's a subscriber, we'll do something which may involve a discount code, and we'll let you know for sure how it'll work closer to time, but you guys might have exclusive access in the discount code to apologise for the fact that we don't have enough to put in the boxes. But the next beer is going to be an awesome one. It is
going to be Masala Bowler's Clockwork Orange. So Masala is a sweet dessert white wine. Into which these barrels we've added Clockwork Orange, which you can probably work that one out. It's a beer we released a while ago. That it's not mine. It's
mine. Oh, it's not yours. It's mine.
I thought it was Terry's.
It's definitely mine.
Oh shit! What was that?
So yeah, Clockworks has been a fan favourite for a while, and when we brought it out, it sold out so quickly. So yeah, bringing this barrel aged version out, it's going to be super exciting.
Creating the first iteration of that beer was one of the biggest headaches I think I've ever had in creating a beer. Trying to get orange oils so that you get from like the zest of an orange to emulsify it into a beer.
God, yeah.
Yeah, that was not fun.
So
Not
yeah,
fun.
one of the enjoyable things we do is we I say we do. One of the enjoyable things I like to watch the brewers do is zest all these fruits that all that do to get these flavours into the beers, and it's so. We have every JML item you ever see on the market, JML fruit zester, and the brewers are there, and it's winding as lemon and it's zesting as it goes, and you're like, wow, super efficient.
I think we actually qualify as a JML graveyard now. I think we've possibly got 6-7 different extinct zesters now.
They last a day. You zest it, but that one day's zesting you got for 30 quid or whatever is so worth it, because trying to do them by hand is just not
absolutely.
good. But then once you've got those peels, you've got to get that flavour in somehow, and boiling it is a great way to do it, because obviously when you boil it, a lot of the flavours come out of it anyway. But we're not just trying to get it into the boil, we're trying to get into the fermenter, we're trying to get into the finished beer. So there's so many complications that you can't even imagine, and then we play around with these stuff, and when we get there in the end, but it's a steep learning curve. That's why you don't see that many chocolate orange beers on the market, because they're not easy to do. And Chalkwork was awesome. It was one of my favourite beers.
Well, I think you do see a few chocolate orange beers out there. What you don't see is many well executed ones, which is why we took our time to get that right.
And the barrel aged one, pairing it with the masala. I love chicken tikka, so it's going to be an amazing beer. But
Well, yeah, a little secret for you guys is what we wanted to get was a Grand Marnier or a Triple Sec or some sort of orange liqueur barrel to urge it, and we couldn't get it, so we decided something that had a certain sweetness to it, the white wine sweetness, masala, at that time was the best that we could get, so that's what we aged it in. This is a beer we're rebrewing in a couple of months, I think, and we now have a source on Grand Marnier barrels. So the next iteration of this will be aged in Grand Marnier barrels.
So Germinator, there's more than somehow, which we were so super appreciative of, but there's more than 400 of you out there now, which is nuts. We didn't think when we started all this that we'd have so many of you guys wanting to try our beers month in, month out, and hopefully you guys enjoy what you get, and we keep things interesting, and we keep the numbers going. We're upping our barrel aged supplies. We're making sure there's more of everything available, and you guys always get first access to all these new beers that we bring out. And and we've got some really, really cool stuff for you guys next year in terms of the events and festivals we're putting on, and how you guys are going to get first access to them. So if you're a subscriber, you've got some really cool things to come in the 2021.
Absolutely. Next question I have is, how is small Tonkoko only 4.4 here, but it's 4.3, and so full of flavour and mouthfeel? So how do we make a low ABV dark beer big on flavour and big on mouthfeel? So to date it has been about using a wide array of malts. It's been about using lactose, which builds up creaminess, sweetness, body. But yeah, I know
Shane's got a good point.
What?
Don't forget to put the process jar back on.
Don't forget to put the process jar. So no, it's a good observation though, because trying to create body and flavour in a not particularly strong beer is hard, and I'd like to feel that's where we've stood out with this beer. I think people have said ever since 2016 that amount of flavour in something that's 4.3.
Yeah, 100%. That's the natural ingredients that go into it. There's so much flavour and so much effort goes into something that should be relatively easy to make. It's not, and the guys, bless them, don't like all the coconut nibs and all the rest of it, the cacao nibs, coconut flakes, and all the stuff we have to get rid of.
I think the big difference is that we don't cut corners. We go the extra yard, and we put the effort in.
So I think we've got time for maybe one or two more questions because we're already over. So if somebody's got one more on screen that I'll read, which is probably 5 minutes ago, so it's probably
well, while you find that, I'll just carry on saying about Tonkoko, or Tonkoko even, the original. So we're talking about a beer that we brew to 4.3, and then we hand toast some coconut, and then we have a custom built infusion vessel, and then we put that coconut and some cacao nibs in there, and then we hook up some hoses, and then we infuse that for like 24 to 48 hours, and then we create a separate concoction of tonka and vanilla, and then we put that into the beer. So I'd like to think it's just us caring, going that little bit further.
It's one of the,
so most people would not go that far. It's a cask beer. Some of this ends up being a cask beer.
So we do already have a couple of questions. Do you think high ABV beer stouts could replace spirits on late night drinks? 100% for me. But yeah, it's public perception. So I would happily go into a bar and drink.
I mean, you and I are in different camps on that one because I'm the kind of guy that drinks whiskey. I really enjoy the high ABV spirit, but I don't think you are. So perhaps for you it could, but I don't think for me it could.
But that's the thing, that there's something for everybody, and that's why it works, because a 14% stout, we aren't going to sell a 30 litre keg of it in one night, but if people come in and have drinks of it all evenings, then maybe. So plans for spontaneous fermentation, you've hinted at before. Oh, sorry.
Have been into that before, I'm guessing. So yeah, absolutely, we still have the aspiration to do Sponta-Ferm, more mixed barrel, barrel aged, mixed firm, all that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, we've had challenges up the road, which has meant some of the production we hope to do at the new site we're having to kick back here. So once we get into a more of a status quo world, then yes, absolutely, that's the kind of thing we'll do here. But we're not quite there yet.
Did you see underneath the cushion when I lifted it? There's like half the cushion missing. Why
did you lift the cushion?
Because someone asked me, said it was upsetting, because I lifted it earlier when Waters was there. But yeah, I'd put it back on the wrong way around. Someone's got more bigger OCD than I have, because I hadn't spotted it.
Right, okay.
So, are there any plans of a nitro stout in the future? 100%. We've done a nitro stout, a nitro Tom Coco. It was awesome, but it was so hard to do, and it was so hard to actually then get it into outlets to make sure nitro. But
we got a quote in for it, so we have a canning line, and the only way you can do packaged nitro beer.
What is it? Just eating crisps off screen.
The only way you can do a packaged nitro beer is to literally inject liquid nitrogen into your beer just before you put the lid on, and you like seal it as the canned beer. And we had assumed it had been about £15,000 when we explored the cost.
Yeah.
It turns out it's £30,000 to add that option to our canning line. So as much as we are known for dark beers, as much as we would like to have that option,
we just need a widget in the can, don't we?
I don't think it washes its face.
So guys, we're going to have to wrap it up now. It's way beyond where we normally are, but we 100% appreciate everyone staying on this long, and hopefully the next live session will be somewhere near a live audience, and if we can do a live audience, when we will.
In the ideal world, it will be in this bar here. We will have the brewer's yard open out there, and we will have an outdoor audience.
Yeah.
Because we can do it in here, and they can be out there watching.
So fingers crossed we'll get something sorted. So thanks for joining us again, guys, and if you aren't already subscribers, make sure you subscribe now.
Thanks, guys. See you next time. Cheers.